Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome to the Locke Management Corporation meeting, May 8th, 2023. I welcome the public. Thank you for showing up. This is a wonderful situation we have here, and we have every board member present, which is great. Going to try to keep the meeting as short as possible. So I'm going to call for roll call. Do you want to do that, Manny, or do you want me?
Yeah, I can take care of the roll call for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so roll call, we have Member Jung.
Here.
Member Wu.
Present.
Member Lum.
Here.
Member Giles.
Here.
Member Kirk.
Here.
Member Prasa.
Here.
Member Walthall.
Here?
Member Heath.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Okay. Okay. Welcome, come on, grab a seat. We have a kind of a backlog of minutes from previous meetings that we had. The approval of the November 4th minutes were...
Chair Walthall?
Yes.
I do apologize. I do have to make my clerk's announcement, and then we can get into the timed items, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because we'll do item 1 and then item 2 with the minutes.
Thank you.
Perfect, okay. The clerk's announcement. The Locke Management Corporation Association, LMCA, fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The LMCA does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. In-person public comments will be taken first. To make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk. The chairperson will call your name when it's your turn to make a comment. If you plan to make a teleconference public comment, you will be kept on mute until the chairperson calls for teleconference public comment. The clerk will unmute you when it is your turn and you may begin your public comment. You may also send a written comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net, and your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. And with that, we have item 1, which is welcome and introduction.
Thank you, Manny. Welcome. I could introduce Gene Bealey over here. He's going to videotape us. I'm going to move right on to item 2, the approval of the Locke Management Corporation November 14th meeting minutes, which were continued from March 13th. I'm not exactly sure why they were continued. It's been since November. Are there any public comments regarding the minutes from the March 13 meeting?
I don't think that this was, public comments.
Okay.
So if any members of the public on the Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand and you will be allowed to make your public comment. So this is for item number 2, the meeting minutes. I do see one hand raised for Douglas L. Yang.
Douglas?
Yes, wasn't March 13th canceled?
Oh, Douglas, oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Does that conclude your public comment, Mr. L. Yang?
Yes.
Any more, Manny?
Any members of the public who wish to make a public comment, you can raise your hand or fill out a speaker request form for item number 2.
Okay, do we have any comments from the directors?
No, I was just going to mention I thought that meeting was canceled, so.
I make a comment that the postponement of the November 14th minutes, because in January there was a comment made by one of our LMC directors saying that they didn't have time, didn't have access to review the minutes yet.
Thank you for that clarification. I remember that now. Okay, are there any other comments from the directors? Okay, I'd like to, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for November 14th, 2022.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Do you have the motion?
So we have a motion, a first and a second, to approve the minutes. Here's the vote. Member Jung?
Abstain.
Member Wu?
I also abstain.
Let's go ahead. Member Lum,
Approved?
Member Giles,
Approved.
Member Kirk,
Yes.
Member Prosser,
Approve.
Member Walthall,
Approve.
Member Heath.
Approve.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, approval of the Locke Management Corporation January 9th meeting minutes. And this was, we did not have a quorum at that meeting, is that correct? Okay. That's why we have those minutes carried over. Is there any public comment regarding the minutes from January 9th, 2023?
I don't see any hands raised in the queue, Chair.
Are there any comments from the board? Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the January 9th, 2023 minutes.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. May we have a roll call vote? Member Jung,
Abstain.
Member Wu,
Abstain.
Member Lum,
Approved?
Member Giles, Member Kirk,
Yes.
Member Prosser,
Approve.
Member Walthall,
approve.
Member Heath.
Approve.
And the motion carries.
Okay, moving on to the treasurer's report, number 4. Year-to-date financial report.
Yes, this is as of the end of March 2023. We showed in the FM Bank we had $44,117 in the checking account. There are a couple of things on here that I want to bring your attention to. One of them is the economic development account. That was the $100,000 grant that we received for the construction of the walkways. And we have a change on an item on the balance sheet. You look down, you see a reserve fund of $2,000. It's been requested that I think Lisa requested this several meetings ago, and so we created an account there, as per your request. And I think it was a good idea. We've been talking about this, but we just never did it, and so we've done that. So there's a small change in the balance sheet there. The total assets there looks pretty high, but that $100,000 of that was that grant. We're going to talk more about that later in the meeting. That was all for a specific project, the walkways. And for March, we showed a net income of just under $2,800. So there's not much else to talk about there, so that's it.
Thank you. Regarding that report and item number 5, which is proposed budget updated from January 9th, the updated part is the $2,000 reserve fund. That's that. Thank you for your report. Item number 6.
Sorry, can I make a public comments about the treasury report? Okay, so I would like to remind our treasurer that if I look at the accounts receivable year-to-year basis, all right, the accounts receivable has grown 25%, okay, almost like a $10,000, 25%. So it reflects that you are only sending out invoices. You are not collecting cash. And based on my banking experience in the past, when we have people having problem to pay, we talk to them, we customize a payment structure, we structure the loan, and that's how we did it. And I hope that you will see that may be the way to collect your outstanding debt. Yes, that's all.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 6.
I just have some board comments. Do we know what percentage is in their arrears for the assessments? Do we have any thought of what the percentage is?
As a percentage, no, I've not calculated that. As a percentage of total for the year?
Well, because I think we still have a percentage in the arrears from 2021
2020.
Yeah, so I was just, maybe on the next report, we can get what that percentage is and what the amount is, and then maybe have a discussion on what we should do about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Chair Wolfall, if you don't mind, I just wanted to open up for public comment for the teleconference portion to see if anyone wished to make a comment on items 4 and 5. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a teleconference public comment for items number 4 and 5? Okay, I see no hands raised. We're closing the public comment session for teleconference. Chair Wolfall?
Thank you. Any more comments by the board? Questions?
I just have an observation about the reserve account, since our budget is around $50,000. In my opinion, it would be advisable to have the reserve account at the 5% level, at $5,000. But a small difference,
That'd be 10%.
10%.
Okay, to remind everybody, this was voted on. I can't say what meeting it was, but the issue of the reserve fund, which was also discussed in tandem with the proposed legal contingents, or what is the term? An agreement we would have with our lawyers to the retainer.
Legal services.
And there was a discussion of perhaps mixing those two or shifting from one to the other, but it was voted on that the contingency fund would be $2,000. In fact, there were several votes taken that just didn't get the majority, and that one finally passed. So, but noted that you would feel a larger fund.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Okay, item number 6, the LMC Locke Management point of contact. This was just thrown in as a reminder. Just want to remind everybody, point of contact is through me to the county. The county's been very happy with us, so I thank everybody. Is there any public comment on?
I do.
Chair recognizes Martha Edge.
What happened to our point of contact representative for the county being Lisa Kirk?
Is this a comment or a question?
It's a question.
Okay, this is public comment.
Okay, well, public are allowed to ask questions.
In the comments. You can ask questions.
I can ask a question of inquiry, and you guys can
Doug, we
answer
cannot
if
be
you happen to
authority
know
on
the
this.
question. I mean, the
If
answer.
this is your comment, are you done?
My comment is a question. When was it changed from Lisa Kirk representing the county and being the representative for the county to you?
This is-
When was that change?
I'll try to make that statement when, as a board, I can give a comment.
I see no hands raised for a teleconference public comment.
Comments from the board?
Well, so my understanding that you're the point of contact for agenda items. That's been that I'm still the Sacramento County representative. And so if you want me to go and talk to the county or anyone, I'm more than willing to do that. But as far as the agenda, I think that's what this refers to as a point of contact for agenda items.
Well, this item was brought up by Florence because of, frankly, too many emails coming from too many people. Florence stated pretty clearly that every one of those contacts are public record. And sometimes they were addressed to her, sometimes to Manuel, sometimes to Alma, sometimes to Supervisor Hume.
Right.
So her effort was to streamline the conduit from the Locke Management Corporation to Sacramento County through the point of contact, which I'm chairman, would be me. This was initiated by Florence.
Mainly for agenda items. Because I think that's where the problems were kind of coming in, that there was too much going in for the agenda items. So, I mean, that's been my understanding of, like, if we want something on the agenda, that we forward it to you, and then you can make a decision on whether or not to put it on the agenda, and then that was kind of my understanding of, so that it streamlined the agenda items. But I still hold the position of Sacramento County representative. And if there's anything you need me to talk to Pat Hume about, now that we've changed, I'm more than willing.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board?
I support Stuart Walthall's comment. The communication between the LMC board and also the County of Sacramento was the coordination, streamlining, and to eliminate all the emails that were bombarding to the County of Sacramento. At that time, I served as the interim chair, and the executive board did meet with the county for this approach for streamlined communication.
And Chair Walthall, I just wanted to let you know we do have Flo on the Zoom meeting, so if you needed any questions answered and any comments, she is here and available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7, discussion of the agreement with the LMC and the County of Sacramento dated December 18th, 2022 for $100,000 for expenses related to the repairs and maintenance to common areas, including pedestrian access walkways in the town of Locke. I can start that off and then perhaps Joe can expand on it. The project is basically done. The walkways have been built. There were funds left over. So the next project we looked at was the landing for the north stairway because it was rotten out. We had the contractors fix it. By the time they got to the stairway, that stairway was extremely dangerous and rotten out. We had the stairway built up to the walkway up top, and then the bridge that went from the top of the stairway to the river road was in the worst condition of anything we had. At that point, we didn't have enough money for finishing the project. Joe met with the contractors who have been really excellent to work with, and they worked out a deal where for the remainder of the $100,000 they would complete the project all the way to the river road. So now we have a kind of a main entrance from the river road down to Main Street. So the funds have been used up. There is an additional archway sign that's been constructed that was outside of that budget, and we're seeking private funds to complete that sign, to electrify it, and put Locke, the town Locke on it. Anything else you want to add?
Other than, what they're filming, I don't get the filming correct sometimes. I just wanted to talk about American Building.
American Building Development.
American Building Development is the company that did the construction and such. And they really did a fine job, and they were wonderful to work with. Hopefully we could, if we have any other construction projects or anybody has anything to be done, they'd be a very fine company to work with, because they sure were on this project. As Stuart said, as we built that stairway out, we realized that as we kept going on it, it was more and more rotten, and but we didn't have enough money to build it all the way out to River Road and the archway. But these people worked with us, and they were glad to do that. So just a big thanks to American builders. So that's all.
Yeah, the arc of the project was pretty in-depth. It took a while to get the contract work done with the county. Then we had to set up the account with the bank. Then we had to set up our connections with our bookkeeper just to get all the logistics for the finances done. We reached out to over 24 contractors. It was very difficult getting a traditional contractor to do this work, especially this historic work. So we got a contractor that luckily enough had specialized in deck work too. Then we had some contractors come out here, walk the project. Lisa helped with that, Mark Miller helped with that, and Joe. finally decided on this particular company, and we're really fortunate to have been able to deal with this company because they really respected the town. They respected people's wishes. They did high quality work, and it's quite frankly just a really excellent project to have under our belt. I wish we could keep going, but maybe that's down the road. Are there any public comments regarding the project? Chair recognizes Martha Ashe.
You mentioned that you've got a new plan for a new sign that has never existed before, an electrified sign. When is the scheduled Locke Design Preservation Committee meeting and review for that?
Again, this is public comment.
No, it's a question. If you're going to put up new stuff in our historic town, there's, or sheds in the backs of backyards that haven't been there before, things like that, or fences that haven't been there, you have to go through the Locke Design Preservation Committee and then get building permits from the county. When is that scheduled? I'd like to attend.
Is
You
that
don't have
going
one
to be a
scheduled?
public comment?
No, it's a question. Are you going to have a Locke Design Preservation Committee meeting?
There is no Locke Design and
You're just
Preservation
gonna
Committee.
create some sign that hasn't existed here before? Without any permissions or the bylaw and the special planning area ordinance? Without going through those,
Las Vegas.
yeah, you make up your own rules if it's your own pet project.
Mr. Shaw, would you not interrupt, please?
Your own rules for your own pet projects, everybody else has to go through 10 meetings, and then you guys deny them.
Martha, maybe we can answer this question.
Thank you.
Talk as-
Thank you.
as a board.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Russ Lowndes.
Hello. I'd love to thank this committee for being so fast and getting that job done and rebuilding it. The whole project was started by the previous speaker who destroyed a whole walkway, making it impassable. And that's what
Yes, you're
started the
welcome.
whole, will you please not interrupt? I said nothing.
No, you said
Would you
something.
please interrupt, not interrupt?
You recognized me, I'm recognizing you. Thank you.
So anyway, it's amazing that you did the work as a committee and made it happen, and I really applaud you for that. And I just want to say that I'm so happy that this committee represents me. I'm an LMA member, and we need you to do the work to make the town work. You help us, you keep the town together, and it's just wonderful to see you finally working together to do it, regardless of the few people that are forever. Well, am I allowed to use the expression shit disturbers? Is that okay? Will the
I
county
don't think
approve
the
my language?
is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So, I just applaud you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
May I make a public comment?
Are there any public comments on teleconference?
I do not have any conference public comments.
Any more public comments from here?
Okay.
Chair
I just
recognizes-
want to make a comment that the $100,000 was made available by the county in the month of October 2022. So it has been 6 months. So I will not call that the super efficient work. That's all.
Any other public comments? Okay, any comments from the board?
I just want to set this is an example of what I asked for from Don Natoli before he left. My concerns have been the sidewalks and the walkways. So I spent a number of years bringing this back to him over and over again. So it is possible for anyone to bring something to the county and ask for it. And I think what's going to be more problematic is, he told me before he left, he said, Lisa, you're on your own with the sidewalks. So at some point, we need to sit down and figure out what we can do with the sidewalks and any funding. But it looks wonderful. I hear people all the time outside like it's a new bright shiny thing in town. and it kind of gives this new energy to the town. So as far as the design, if we're gonna do a sign, I think we should maybe bring it back to the table and have public input in it. I would make that recommendation that, you know, I don't know
Follow
who's...
the bylaws.
Okay.
Don't interrupt.
Okay, you know, I think that it would pull us even more together. So, you know, I would like the board to consider, you know, if there's somebody doing this sign that we could bring this back at the next meeting, or do you want this done before a certain time? Because I have a question too. So I would just recommend that we bring it back and let the public review it. Thank you.
I'd like to agree with that, you know, this should be, it's a sign for the town. Not a lot of room for a lot of stuff regarding the wording, who's gonna do it and whatnot. Thus far, to even get that repaired up there and to get the facade, the arc built, has been money out of our own pockets privately. The lights that are on it, it's the same thing. As far as the wording, etc., it should be a town effort.
Where are you gonna, where is it going? I'm trying, just exactly where is it going?
It's done.
Oh, it's done. It's already up there?
Yeah, what it is
Not the
it's,
sign.
Oh, okay.
It's just the boards.
The boards, okay.
yeah,
And then how much more money do you need to complete it?
$700 will cover the whole thing. But there's no bad rush for the painting that's gonna be on it, the words that are on it. There had to be stabilization up there at the top. There were issues with the Star Theater, so luckily these guys that we were working with were actually just, with the help of Mark, instead of putting up some Jippo reinforced, they were actually taking, you know, boiling water and bending wood to make it structurally sound and look correct with the correct materials. I think it's a good idea to have ideas thrown around on what should be on it. It's, like I say, it is an entrance from Main Street, from River Road down onto Main Street. And who knows, maybe someday we get that whole walkway fixed.
The, concerning the $100,000 grant that was approved in October, it was approved in October. The check didn't get here till sometime in early February. So we couldn't start on the actual project until we had monies in hand. That was the art.
Make a comment.
Yes.
I applaud the board, those who were with getting the walkway completed. On Friday, I had opportunity to conduct a walking tour, and this is for the University of California, Davis. These are retired spouses of professors through the University Farmers Circle project. And it was so reassuring to know that we could use a walkway to go to the back side of the town because it's safe now. So that's one aspect. And then we had a few comments where some of the folks had walked down and parked on the River Road and walked down and used the brand new stairway. And they applauded the town for the improvements of the walkway.
Thank you. Any more comments by the board?
I'd make one comment, which is that I think the work that was done was excellent, and it was done very timely and quickly. And they tore out the old stuff, they put in the new foundations. It is like rock solid work out there. So kudos to the selection of the contractor. And I think I guess to everyone's comments here, it's just a benefit for the town. And having access from River Road, I think is a benefit for all the business owners down here on Main Street. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay, let's move on. Number 8, ratification of Chinese organization, Representative Greg Jung by Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. It's a done deal, and I'd like to welcome and thank Greg Jung for being on our board.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say anything?
Had the walking tour with my friend Daryl Wu, and I agree with you. The walkways are extremely impressive. I'm glad it's done. My background as a business owner is in the insurance field. So when I walk around the town, I look for risk. So risk management, risk mitigation, that is paramount to me. So I'm glad I'm here. My objective is to find out what the issues are here and to work closely with the board. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, are there any public comments?
Well, I do not see any hands raised in the teleconference public comment.
Are there any public comments from, any comments on the board?
I have
Okay,
a comment.
welcome.
Greg Jung, we're very fortunate, this LMC board is very fortunate that we have Greg Jung as part of our board. He is with the Historical Society in Folsom. He's with past president, OCA Sacramento chapter. He served on the Chinese American Council, the Sacramento board, and he is a community leader. And we are very fortunate to have him on board to help us out with this insurance background.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 9, discussion of the continuing problem with garbage cans stored on common area. I don't know if you all saw, they're all back again out on the street. To reiterate what we've talked about in previous meetings, it's been going on for months. The first letter was kind of a kind letter, asking people to return their garbage cans to their residences the way they were before. Previously, there was that bit of common area open on the west side of the restrooms. They were being stored there, which was a problem because they were not getting emptied and they were getting full of water. Then the problem was exacerbated by people not even putting them back in that area. They leave them out on the street, they put their garbage in there, and then they walk away. During the Clamper cleanup, we moved all of them back behind the restrooms. It looked good, it was organized. Today, they're all back again. A second letter was sent. That second letter was also posted on buildings on Main Street, and these people don't care. They obviously do not care. They don't have pride in their community. It's the first thing people see when they drive into this town. I don't know what it's gonna, and I'm open for questions here. I don't know what it's gonna take to get people to go back to the way they used to do it. Take the garbage can from your residence, bring it out here. The garbage truck comes on Monday. When it gets picked up, take it back to your residence. They're being too lazy now to even return it to that open common area. They just leave it on the street. That's my problem. And that's the town's problem. I don't know what to do. We can't just call Waste Management and tell them to pick them all up and take them away. But we're not getting a response. So it's frustrating as can be. We are aware of that problem. I'm going to open that up to public comment. If anybody has any comments regarding that. Do we have any on the line?
I don't have anyone's hand raised in the teleconference at the moment, no.
Excuse me, I haven't recognized you. Ms. Bendel?
Yes, I think that you do have a resource in waste management. I think they will be happy to reclaim the cans, and perhaps if you contacted them as the association, you know, the board running the town, that you say that these cans were abandoned, and would they collect them? I'm sure they'd be happy to reuse them if they're just left here. So I would give Waste Management a call as, you know, the association board, and that might work. And when we did have Anna as a property manager, she would, you know, routinely leave notices and so forth, but I just really go back to Waste Management and say, hey, there's a whole bunch of abandoned cans. I'd also like to point out, I know your frustration, I hear it, but collection was today. So I think Tuesday will be the telling, you know, point. If they move them after tomorrow, you know, tomorrow, then they'll know better.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for trying.
Marthesh?
A possible solution to the garbage can problem could be to go back historically in time to early 2011, when the entire town used the dumpster behind Al the Wops and the dumpster behind the Dialogue Museum to put their things in. It wasn't until March of 2011 that Waste Management clued in that, hey, wait a minute, we can put 150 plastic cans for 50 parcels in Locke, shiny new, one recycling can for every property, one trash can for every property, and one yard waste can for every property. They dumped on us 150 cans all over the town in March of 2011. Maybe you don't remember that, but I talked to Leanne Moffett at the county about that and Tricia Stevens, and they were going to put it into their plan and then never did. But to reduce that and possibly see if the Locke Management Corporation or Association at the time could get its own dumpsters in the back on common ground, and then we're not decorating our historic town with 150 plastic trash cans everywhere. That could be a possible solution to talk about.
Well, Russell had his hand up first.
I was here, March 2011, 150 cans. I don't know where that number came from. Most of the cans, as far as I remember, came from one building, Virgil's building, and he has 4 rentals or 3 rentals, and they came and they unloaded cans. It is a problem to get people to follow the rules. And again, I really thank this board for attempting to make people follow the rules of the organization, because I'm paying ground rent. I pay an assessment to pay you to do the work. And I really thank you for doing it. I really don't know what to do with the people who keep throwing themselves in your way and who keep creating problems for you that are absolutely unnecessary. And they're more personal problems, have nothing to do with you. So keep up the good work.
Carol?
I just wanted to say that whatever you do, if you confiscated the cans, there is no other mechanism for the refuge, and I can just imagine it's just strewn everywhere throughout town. So, it'd be good to have, whether it's Martha's comment of some other common place or something else, but I discourage the confiscation unless there is another mechanism. And I don't live here, but it's just a reasonable thought.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Any comments from the board?
I echo Carol's concern about confiscating the bins as, once they're gone, where's the trash going to go? As the one of the owners of the Al the Wops property and business, that place is, we fill, I think, 2 bins every week at least. I know Clarence has a bin back there as well for some of his properties. There may be room for another, but it would be hard. We would be hard pressed to fit another bin back there. There may be other places where it could go that a truck could reach to empty it. But I would say it's not worth taking the bins, I guess, in retribution for a problem that maybe we need to lean on the property owners to enforce with their tenants more directly.
Thank you. To address that, the second letter was addressed more to landlords than it was residents, in the hopes that they could educate their tenants on what protocol is, but that obviously didn't work. Jenny, did you have a question?
Yeah, I agree with both of you about not removing, because then if the people, you remove half of them, however many people aren't taking them back, and then their trash goes into your bin if you still have one, and that's going to create a lot of other problems. But I'm assuming that they all have numbers and they're registered to certain households. So if you are looking at a number 0101 out there, and it's continually, it's continuously left there, can't we trace that to the household? And is it in the bylaws anywhere? I'm sure they were written long before this was an issue. So is it in the bylaws that the trash cans need to be returned to the houses?
Not that I know of, and is regarding the number, no, not all of them do, but in both letters, it was requested that they put their name and their address on their cans. But that didn't happen either.
Right, okay. Well, and then one last comment. I agree, there is not a lot of room for a third dumpster. So is it possible to have one single dumpster, I hate the idea, but over here near the restroom that is enclosed with a wooden fence? You know, maybe it's got a combination lock, so all of the residents can put their trash in there.
Well, one problem that people have is waste managers, or the county just comes in and says, you got these cans. These are yours, you're gonna pay for them. So what do? Tell people you're no longer using those cans you're paying for? To me, it's a rather simple solution to it if people would go by our suggestions of return your cans to where you live. So anything short of finding out who, you know, individually, whose can is what, and then talking to those people. I just don't know what we can do.
I don't think we can confiscate cans that are being paid for.
I think this idea of confiscation is off the
Yeah,
table.
you can't take, you know, if
Broken
a
cans, you
4-unit apartment, if he's paying for those cans, you can't have anybody come and take them. I admit, you know, I found one can behind the bathroom that had water in it for I don't know how long, and we had to, you know, dump it. And I like, who does this belong to? So I think, you know, we can ask people to put their numbers on them, you know, I think that, or we can assist. Anybody want to volunteer to assist?
Or we can put the numbers on those cans, figure out which household has the cans are there and which households don't, and we assign numbers to them that we can track on our own. If they don't already have the numbers, we'll know. If they're doing their due diligence and pulling their cans back in when they should, we'll be able to go by on a Tuesday or Wednesday, make sure that they're all where the houses are.
Right.
If they're not, then the rest of the ones out there are probably not being returned to their proper place.
Or their vogue, either, you know.
Yeah, it's correlating that can with that person. I personally could live with if they would just put it behind the restroom, then it's okay.
But you want them behind, like,
Yeah,
so,
it'll keep the crap from building up, from people throwing all their,
well, what I don't understand, if I've got a garbage can, I don't want to walk from there to there. I'm going to pull it to my house, fill it up, and then take it out on garbage day. You know?
Yeah.
that would be the ideal thing, wouldn't it?
Well, that's
That's
Yeah.
what most of us do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any area we can stick it? No, they've got to all be up front, right? How many are there? Has anybody got a clue how many there are?
There's been as many as 20, now there's 11 out there.
There's 11.
I have a comment. Is a possibility to have increased assessments for those or penalize those that leave the garbage can?
No, I don't think we want to start all of
Reduce
that.
assessments.
You know, these garbage cans are paid for by the individual property owners.
Right, so the property owners could get leaned on to get their tenants to comply. Or get themselves to comply.
They need to be numbered because you can't
Yeah.
figure this out unless they're numbered.
Exactly.
You know, so we're gonna have to ask them to number them. And while we're on this, before I forget, those of us that clean up the street, and Jack Mello who cleans up the parking lot, he needs because I said, Jack, where do you put the garbage? He goes, I don't know. Because sometimes I take it home with me. You know, so does the Locke Management Association, do you guys pay for any garbage cans?
No.
You might want to look at that, because
We do have a couple of little garbage cans in the parking lot.
can we put those behind the bathroom so we know those are, Jenny and I can use them and Jack can use them, just while we're on top of the garbage cans?
You can't use the ones that are out on the street.
But they belong to other people.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if you can identify, are those, do they have markings on them, like?
No, some of them have Virgil's number to drop a name. We know the Virgil place has 9 cans.
They have 9 cans.
Wow.
Wow.
And Deborah and Martha, I'm sorry, the public comment's done for this agenda item.
Okay, so they got 9 cans.
Yeah, they do.
Have you talked to the tenants?
No. And we've reached out to the landlord and there's no communication.
You wanna talk to them?
And I can try, I never see
Okay,
them.
alright, well, I do see them.
Do you?
Yeah. So I can try to talk to them, because they even said on the cleanup day, if you've got anything that needs to be cleaned up, get it out.
Please.
Okay? So I will try, if it's mainly that one building,
Well, I can't say it's mainly that because sometimes there's a lot more. There's some cans that never get touched. So as you saw, with a completely full of water can, there's been broken ones that we left, a couple of 3 broken ones by the waste management. And that was my mistake because it wasn't waste management that brought in the dumpsters. It was another company. So, but they were broken, but they can be repaired, so. I'm satisfied, partially satisfied that just this entire board is aware of what's going on and the public of this continuing problem that really, since we started addressing it, has only gotten worse. So, I appreciate everybody's ideas. We'll just see where we can take it from here because it doesn't look like we're going to come up with a solution right now. Lisa, if you could talk to the tenants, that's a good step in the first direction. Discussion regarding the repairs to potholes, this is number 10, on the entrance to the public parking lot and residences. Are there any public comments regarding that?
Jack
Do we have
Mello.
anything online?
Don't see any hand raised at the moment, no.
Martha Esch?
Jack Mello should be thanked for his past years' efforts to fill the potholes with his own gravel. We need to thank that man. He does so much for this town and has no recognition. And he picks up garbage and recyclable things every day that he's here in the mornings. And I don't know about this past winter, but the winter before, he brought gravel in his little pickup truck, like 5 or 6 loads of gravel, and filled in all those potholes in the back. No, I don't think anybody thanked him for it from the board. Thank you. Maybe Lisa did.
Russell? Oh, I didn't see whose hand was up first.
Doesn't matter.
The only reason those potholes existed was because the previous chairman didn't pay attention to taking care of the town. So the town has been falling apart now for 2 years because this board has been just disheveled politically. So again, I'm glad to see that you're doing the work. I heard an estimate from someone that you had a bid to fix that road for $30,000. That's why I'm actively doing it myself, as I've done for 10 years before. I had a little bulldozer, and that's how I fix it. I got a little front end loader. It doesn't take a lot, it's quite simple. So I'm working with the board, and I'm working with a man who's been fixing gravel roads for 40 years, and he's instructing me, and he has access to the cheapest rock. So he's really helping. So there's a plan in place. If you'd like me to talk about it in a minute, I will, but I wanted to say that if we do it ourselves, we can save a fortune. And what I'm trying to avoid is a special assessment, because this board has the power to make a special assessment, and I really don't want that to happen for $30,000. I don't know how you're going to do it. There's 50 buildings. I mean, there's 50 buildings for $30,000, it's what, $600 a building. I have 4 properties, so would it cost me $2,400? I don't know how the assessment would work. Would the assessment be higher for the main street and less for the back? I don't know. But as long as I can do it, it's really easy. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Douglas?
Number one, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Russell. I know that you have done a great deal
Talk
of
to the board,
work.
don't talk to me, I'm not
A
interested
great
in
deal of
knowing what
work
you
in
say.
the
I don't care what you
past.
think.
And then I'm talking,
I
I'm
do
not
not care
talking
what
to you
you
now. I'm
think.
talking
Talk to
about
the board. You're
Martha.
talking to the board.
Okay, well,
This isn't a personal
I'm talking!
conversation. I don't care
I'm
whether you're
talking.
talking or not, don't. Talk to the board.
I'm talking, shut up.
Talk to the board.
He can talk.
I can talk to anybody I want. It's public comment.
Comment.
Okay.
This is a
so-
public meeting.
Okay, Martha.
Anyone
yes.
who wants.
So Martha, okay, regarding Jack Mello, I did thank him a few times, and I did invite him to lunch and things. So
Thank you.
During my tenure, no, I've given him proper recognition.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And then number 3, yeah, so I just want to take the opportunity to pay accolades to Jeannie and Lisa. They have been cleaning up the street, the whole main street for 3 years now, and there is a lot of recognition that we should give. Yeah, that's all.
Are there any other public comments?
Chair Walpole, I do actually want to make you aware, I have one hand raised on the teleconference public comment.
Thank you.
Do you wish to have him speak up?
Please.
Okay. I see Douglas L. Yang with your hand raised. Mr. Al Yang, if you can you unmute yourself to make a public comment?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I sent on Monday this morning or over the weekend an email with the Locke final map. Did you receive that email? Anyone?
Is it in our package as public comment?
It was included in the packet several months ago for the canceled meeting in March, and I resent it this past week. Does anyone have it?
Mr. Elling, would you do your public comment, please?
It's important that you have this because the public comments related to your item on potholes. I wanted to get a baseline so you can understand where I'm going with this. So the answer is no?
No.
No.
All right, so I'll wing it. So your potholes are on Locke Road next to the public parking, as I read somewhere, correct?
On the
I
entrance.
can't help you unless respond.
So the entrance.
I want to help.
Okay, the entrance into the parking lot where the road splits.
Yes, so
Okay.
that's Locke Road that goes by the Chinese school. That's the road we're talking about, correct?
Correct.
All right. In the final map, the map is dedicated this road, the Main Street Road, and part of the Levy Road, County of Sacramento. The County of Sacramento is responsible for that potholes and maintenance of the streets in the town of Locke. That's known as Lot A. And I can help you with that. That's a county responsibility for maintenance. Then I'll back up and give you my experience and my background. I'm a licensed land surveyor. I own a full service engineering firm. I put in the proposal to map this town in 2002. I was not successful in achieving that award and went to Burrell Engineering. And there's a series of items that map needs to be corrected. And the Locke Road is one of them from a maintenance standpoint and dedication standpoint in fee title. So I can help you with that.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? I'm going to open it up. Oh, Deborah?
Yeah, I just want to point out, it's not just, potholes right at the beginning of town, it's all of Key Street. It's basically Key Street. It's a gravel road, we own the road, and, the SHRA put down all that nice brand-new gravel, 2003, something like that. It's amazing it's held up as long as it did, but one of our problems is the garbage trucks come in 4 times a week at least from the entrance to Main Street and Key, and they drive around and they're just beating the hell out of the gravel road. I don't want to ever see it paved. I think it's just long overdue re-graveling that we need. And we need all of Key Street done. And I don't know how much of technically Locke Road is not supposed to be paved and not, but the pavement, as far as we understood when SHRA, graveled and paved, that the pavement ends where our property begins. That's, if the gentleman who just spoke before me knows some mistakes that have been made, I don't know, but we just need to re-gravel it, and we're really close to that. So I think our problems, it's already better because Russell's been working on it, so thanks.
Thank you. Martha?
I'd like to ask the person on the phone, Mr. Aoyang, if he's still there, if it's possible to ask him, since he knows the map and worked on the map, if he's talking about just up to approximately the restrooms, that portion of the gravel, or is he talking about all of Key Street? Does it include the alleyways? I'm not sure which portion of the common ground he's talking about, or is it common ground property that he's talking about? If he's still there, would you allow him to give a secondary explanation as to more specifics what could be paved, or not paved, but re-graveled by the county? Maybe you could do that?
Any more public comment?
Can I see it again? Another one? Second
Nope.
time?
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the board, but let me clarify a couple things here. First of all, I'm really grateful that Russell is handling the potholes, especially before the clampers came out. Regarding what Mr. Aoyang said, I have seen maps from 2003 that definitively show the county property running to the end of Dustin's garages. Not here where the road is. The road was originally Locke's. It was under the purview of the town. That it was given to the county, that would have made it their responsibility. You guys remember Don Natoli came in and repaved it. I don't know how important that was, how necessary it was. But they did not take any of the paving to the parking area. Now maybe something has changed that deviates from the several things that I've seen that show the county being responsible for Locke Road up to the end of the garages. Maybe Mr. Aoyang could help with that too. But I also know that if we would have waited around for the county to do something regarding our potholes, they wouldn't be done now. That's why I'm grateful, particularly before our festival, that Russell has come in with his bulldozer and removed the potholes, and now we're preparing to lay down gravel. Anybody else on the board regarding the potholes? Let me remind everybody again, this is repair to potholes at the entrance to the public parking and residences.
Well, I would like to see Mr. Aoyang continue on with exploring Lot A and the county responsibility, and communicating that back to us and to the county. If we can figure out a way to have the county help with that area and pave it and gravel it, that's the more preferred choice. And then I don't know how much it would cost to do Key Street and to because I don't think the county is going to go onto Key Street and fill in potholes, but there's a need. So we probably should look at what the cost of that would be. Because we're gonna have to deal with it eventually.
Okay, at this point, I would like to bring up Russell Owens because part of town maintenance, which is what we're in charge of, we've been initiated this project of repairing the potholes and the gravel. Russell has figures. Please.
Sure.
It's already been mentioned that it was either 2 years, I think it was 2 years ago, the bid we got to do this work that we're addressing right now was $30,000.
But not on Key Street.
Yes, it was. It's
Okay, it was
for-
on Key Street, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the gravel roads around the back, essentially where all the garbage trucks
Drive, yeah. Well, the roads are pretty good where the garbage truck doesn't drive. Just as a matter of fact, 15 years ago, we volunteered and built 3 of the walkways putting down Redwood, and they lasted for 15 years. It was all for free. So a volunteer effort is the only way to go in a little town like this, with a small funding base of what, 40, 45,000, 50,000, whatever it is. It's not very much. So anyway, I called in a guy who's been doing this for 40 years, and he is a local, actually I talked with Jack Mello too. I talked to him last week about it, because he has gravel roads going in and out. So I know Jack, I've known him for 35 years. I've been here a long time. So I have these great resources. So this guy came and looked it all over. He's gonna bring, it's gonna be a process. He figured it's 4 loads of 3/4 rock at $800 a load. And it'll be spread by the truck. The truck will back and just lay it out in 2-inch thicknesses, and I'll have to move it around where it isn't. And then followed with a little pea gravel to fill it in. Just 1 load should fill it in and make it nice and flat. And he talked about, if you could find it, they used to put salt. It's a salt mixture, salt water that they get out of Newark, California. And they wet it down, and it crystallizes. It kind of hardens the ground so there's no dust. Because the problem in the back is the dust. The garbage trucks eat up the road base, which has a cementous material in it. And then when they leave at 22 miles an hour, the cloud is twice the size of the garbage truck. So it's really a problem back there. So that's a lot of the problems we're trying to address. And we can address it easily. I mean, I'm telling you, I've got 4 or 5 hours in it right now so far, and I'm learning. I'm not a master on a bulldozer, but luckily I had one identical to it, so I know all the operation of it. But it'll be great. I mean, I'm going to wait until, of course, after the 13th, the festival, and then we'll start bringing the rock in.
How much is who's paying for the rock? Just so I have a clear.
Well, the LMA is eventually.
And how much is the rock? 800 a load. There's 4
For 4 loads, 3,200.
3,200. Okay.
So it's going to be, really a deal. And the other thing, in the winter, it's you have to work on them all winter. And anyone who knows gravel roads, they get potholes. And what you will do in the winter is just bring a truck in once in a while. These are double loads. These are not a single truck. It's a double-sized truck. So we'll bring in just 1 truck, and they'll fill the holes. I'll spread it out and keep on moving, just to keep ahead of it. So again, I applaud you for taking care of the town. That's all you guys are doing. There's no big political thing going here. Nobody's hiding anything. You're just simple people trying to do a basic job of taking care of the town. So I really want to thank you. And I will find out, I'll give you a bid beforehand for you to approve, because I don't know. $30,000.
Just a bid for just the gravel or for your work?
For my work, gravel, fuel, machinery, repair, stuff like that.
So we're at 3,200 plus whatever you come in on a bid with?
No, plus another 800 for the pea gravel, I'm told, plus whatever the water costs. I don't know if we're going to raise a roll.
Before we do this, we need a bid in here and an amount because...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because we've
That's
got
normal.
Common area. I mean, we got to look at what we were budgeting, and there's a $2,000
you're catching up for what the previous chairman didn't do. So that's what you're doing. You're catching up for the work that hasn't been done. So, and again, I applaud you for doing this and taking care of our town. Thank you.
Before you go, I want to say a couple of things, Russell.
Yes.
I happen to know you've got more than 4 or 5 hours into this project so
I know
far.
that too.
Because I've been here for more than 4 or 5 hours and seen you riding that track.
Yeah, I know.
And I also know that you spent your own money on equipment.
I did.
So I want to thank you for that.
You're
And it's not just the grading of the road that you've been doing so far. You've also trimmed a tree so that these garbage trucks could have access to all of these roads all by yourself.
Yes.
And so...
Well, the garbage truck was kidnapped by the tree. That
Well, I think the
he couldn't leave, so we had to move to the branch.
partly of his own doing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I know you've got a lot more hours into doing the research on this project also.
It takes time.
So it's quite a lot of work and time that you've put into this already in several different areas, making the roadways passable for the garbage trucks and such and for other people, and doing the research and getting us some numbers on this project. So I want to thank you while you're standing here for that.
As I said, I worked for the town for 10 years and had no recognition, so that's the first real board recognition I ever got, so thank you.
Thank you.
Also, during this past winter, how's been the drainage on the roads? Have you had any issues with flooding because of the rains?
No flooding.
Okay.
What happens is the weight of the garbage truck, if there's a puddle, the garbage truck pushes the rock down and the puddle gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And no one took care of it at all winter. So these cars were bottoming out. They went into the hole. They were so deep, they were dragging their car along. So again, it's just a matter of, spinning the bulldozer around, moving the rock. There's a lot of rock there. It's just getting it where it should be.
Thank you.
Just to the board, so will our insurance policy cover any of this work that's done?
Oh, I wish.
Okay.
The
No?
beauty of it is I'm insured and I can't sue the LMA, so you're absolutely double indemnified. I can't sue myself because I'm an LMA member.
I know
So-
that someone can sue the LMA because
No, they
something
can't. They have to sue me because
No,
I'm doing it.
No, because we're approving it and we're funding it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the problem. When you
That
fund
is
something,
possible. I agree with that.
you
Yeah,
take
yeah, right.
responsibility.
Yeah, they will, they look for a deep pocket, so that's true.
Do you
But-
think we should maybe do you think we could get a temporary policy? I'm gonna ask the insurance guy, okay?
Insurance guy already.
Well, typically with the board, the activities, the decisions we make, if the policy decisions cause damage, then the directors and officers coverage covers the LMA board. The activities of providing funds to get the roadway completed and repaired, it's an assumption that we are approving
Right.
Russell or whatever other
Right.
organization can
Right.
do it. So possibly, again, if damage is caused and a claim is filed against the LMA, well, we would file a liability claim. That's a coverage. That
Okay.
coverage. It's called
Okay.
liability.
Yeah, right, which
So-
we pay for as a,
So
yeah,
actions cause damage, bodily injury, property damage.
right.
So that's how insurance will work.
Okay,
Your question of whether or not the insurance policy would cover the road repairs
right,
doesn't do that.
okay. Just if there's if we incur some kind of, somebody gets hit or, gravel hits somebody's windshield, I mean, you know how it
Right,
goes.
it's
you know.
endless.
Yeah,
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 endless.
all right.
Yeah, well, as I'm spinning the 10-ton bulldozer around, or 10,000-pound bull, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of it often,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So,
So,
Okay, I want to thank you for the work you've already
You're very
done.
welcome.
And we look forward to getting down on paper
Yes.
the cost of
When I know
the finished
what a
product.
total should
The
be.
road is ready for our festival,
Yes.
which is
I
great.
finished it up
I'm
today,
very
so-
happy with that.
Okay,
So,
Thank you.
come on, Corliss.
I just wanted to say that it's pretty much a community effort. Clarence isn't here tonight, but he's been one that's been fixing the potholes too. And I just wanted everybody to know that.
Thank you.
Chair Walpole, I just wanted to identify, I have Douglas Allen with his hand raised for a public comment. Were you going to allow a second public comment, or?
Yes, I was yes.
Yes, okay. Doug, I see your hand raised, I'm gonna go ahead and give you the ability to talk. Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, I'd like to respond to the lady director. I will help you sort through
Okay.
all the items that I listed on my email and the county road maintenance responsibility ends at the garage of Dustin Farms, so that's the limit.
So does anybody on this board object if I confer with him and then further on with the county? Is there any objections to that?
Please do.
Okay. Okay.
And
All right, I'll be
Was that
contacted. That's Director Kirk.
Was that directed to me?
That was directed to the board to get the approval that you and I can communicate, and then we can communicate on with the county. Because I am the county representative, so, and I will need your help in presenting this to, if I'm going to ask for funding for this particular, I'm gonna need your help in explaining this to the supervisor.
It is a complicated and lengthy operation, and I will do that. I do my best to help you from Texas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more comment from the board? That was a pretty good discussion. Okay, regarding number 11, discussion regarding further action pertaining to the health and safety issues with the Wally building. I'll introduce that a little bit, give you some backstory. We've sent 2 letters to the owners of the Wally. The original owner, Rain Fong, had passed away. So now we're dealing with the family. This has been a ongoing issue with the pigeons, especially the pigeon feces, the roof, the broken windows, and it's getting to the point now where we have to decide as a board what we're going to do with that building. It's in our CC&Rs and bylaws that we can go ahead and make the repairs necessary to make that building safe and bill the owner. So that's the point where we're at now. We need to decide what we're going to do. So I'm going to open this up to the public, and then the board can discuss it. So is there any public comment regarding the Wally building? Do we have anybody online?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. Then I'm going to open it up for discussion with the board.
Stuart, could you please maybe recapitulate the steps that have been taken to date with regard to communication with the owners and what the outcomes of those communications have been?
I'm going to hand this over to Joe because he's the one that has created and sent the letters.
Thank you.
You know, so as Stuart said, we've communicated twice with them. The first letter I sent was when Lorraine was still alive. And I didn't get a reply from her. And I didn't know at the time, but I guess she was incapable of doing so, and nobody picked up on it. The second one, once I got the address for, after Lorraine did die, I got the address of, I think it's her nephew that has been taking point on things on her properties.
Including paying assessments.
Yes, and that's been happening, and but he has not been available for communication, neither by phone or by letter. So that's what we've done so far. We've attempted, and we've gotten nothing. Everything has fallen into a hole. And so I think we've tried to get something done here. So I think the next step is notice that we are going to begin repair, and the result of that will be that we will send them the bill for whatever it takes us to repair that, because it's really becoming a problem.
So in other words, we would be sending another certified letter informing them.
I think that's
like
reasonable.
This is, yeah.
I might suggest that it would be reasonable, first of all, I agree to send a certified letter such that it can be signed for and we can know it was received and who signed for it. And also give them time to respond to the letter prior to the commencement of any repairs, just in case they, you know, I guess in the abundance of caution and in the spirit of like making sure that there's like like they have the opportunity to understand what's being done, and they're actually gonna get a bill, it would probably behoove us to be abundantly, I guess, procedural.
Yeah.
And make sure that they know what the heck is going on.
Good.
I have a couple of questions as well. Do we know that the nephew is even the inheritor of the property? And do we have the money in our coffers to do, is it just basically boarding up windows? What kind of repairs would we be doing? Just something to maintain?
It's boarding up windows, it's putting plywood over the glass windows.
Fixing the roof?
We can't do much with under the eaves where the pigeons come. I have heard in the research I've done, they actually have chemicals that pigeons don't like. You know, they're repellent to the pigeons. So, but initially, the work that needs to be done is to cover 5 windows. Mark, was that correct? Was that 5?
Yeah, at least 5 and a couple of transoms.
And the transoms above there, on either side of the door.
Would it be better if we, I don't know what would be the swiftest way of doing it, wouldn't the county, because it's on Main Street, be responsible for the integrity of that? Or is it in our bylaws that we take precedence over?
Well, it's laid out very clearly in our bylaws and CC&Rs of what we're supposed to do for situations like this. So I'm pretty sure the county would throw it right back in our laps. So again, to reiterate, this would be sending another letter, making it crystal clear, showing them the appropriate bylaws, telling them what could and will happen. But the reason that I'm bringing it up at this meeting here is I want consensus with this board and I want to vote on it. I want to have the board on board with this decision, so it just doesn't come down to 1 or 2 people. This is why we should thoroughly discuss this. This is precedent. We have not done this before. So is there any more discussion?
What's the approximate cost for the repairs that you mentioned?
Mark, can you help me on that?
No, not right now, I can't.
Under 1,000?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the letter to the nephew, we would maybe put an estimated cost for repair, or do we go to a contractor and ask for an estimated cost so that is part of that letter, formal letter, so they know what to anticipate?
Well, that's not a bad idea.
I think first we need to send out a letter certified before we even get into the repair aspect of it. Because we really don't know who we're sending the letter to. You know, and if there's a response that it's in probate, you know, I'm uncomfortable going and touching somebody's building even though we think we have the authority to do it. That's really kind of frightening for me to think that we're gonna go to somebody.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I do.
But what are we gonna do with a continuing problem that's been well over a year that me as residential property representative, I hear it over and over and over, the problems with that building. You're on Main Street, you know.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? Are we gonna just ignore it or just keep sending letters? We have to be ready to take the next step. And let's do it correctly, do it legally, and do it as a group.
I think that maybe 2 members could go talk to Pat Hume in the building department in violation of code enforcement, because there are numerous code violations there, okay? I don't live in a street with a building across from me with broken windows and that. I think that you should first have the county write them a letter, and I think it would be a stronger impact than the LMA, and that they would probably know the rules about this a little bit more than we do. I think we're getting into some legal areas here. And so again, first write a letter, send it certified, the original letters you have sent, to make sure that you're getting to someone. You know, so you've got a signature on there. Because at this point, we don't even know who's in charge of that building, or if we're notifying the correct person.
But it will start with a letter. We're not gonna be touching that building until...
Right, and that we need a bid on, because, you know, again, if we're gonna touch somebody's building, it should be a contractor that does it, because they can look at us and say, you did this and you did that, and this wasn't even a contractor, you know, because we're edging into legal liability again.
I didn't hear anything about no contractors doing it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is if we're gonna go and touch somebody's building, I think that the responsible thing to do would be have a contractor that's licensed and bonded.
Totally agree.
Okay, so that, I just wanna make sure that that's in there, but I think before that, way before this, we resend the letters, get a signature on those letters, because who knows what state this is in? If it's in probate, you know, did she have a will? Maybe they can direct us to the correct person. We're assuming that the nephew is the responsible party.
Lisa, since you're the county representative, would you do the due diligence research?
Well, I'm gonna ask maybe Stuart and another member, because I'm already on these other things, and I don't mind delving into this, but I think at this point, I think if Stuart and maybe Joe would talk to the county about, you know, how do we deal with code violations on buildings?
Well, I'll tell you, the county doesn't like dealing with Locke.
Okay, but Pat is a new person. You know, I think you need to have conversations. I think it's time to get over the past agendas, and, you know, and he may be more than interested in helping, because these are major building code violations. These aren't little things.
Martha,
both of the
public
building-
comment is over with for this agenda
On this
item.
issue?
Let's,
do public comment.
It hasn't even started
I don't think we did public comment.
on this issue.
Yes, they opened public comment and closed it earlier.
Okay.
but it's open for, let me reiterate. The next step we take as a board is to send a letter to hopefully who's writing the checks and whatnot. We'll reach out again via telephone. We'll do our best, and we'll see if we get a certified letter receipt back. And in the meantime, Joe and I will do some homework regarding the county. Again, this is laid out clearly in our bylaws and our CC&Rs.
Yeah, but if we can find an alternative to deal
I know,
with it.
this is why I'm bringing it up and
Okay.
emphasizing it.
I wish I could help.
That's okay.
I've got natural, you know.
I want everybody to realize the gravity of this
Right.
situation, because we're gonna be looking at it again on the next agenda item.
Right.
So is there any more discussion?
I have
Yes.
one more question. In the letters that have been sent, are the specific code violation numbers listed, you know, county violation codes? Or is it just that may be just
I
a
think
simple.
it's just mentioning the nuisances.
Yeah, so getting with county and finding out all the different code violations might be a little scarier. But like Lisa said, and what I brought up originally was we don't have any idea actually who's now responsible for this mess.
Ultimately, yes.
Whereas the next thing on the agenda, we know.
And we will put this on the next meeting's agenda.
Okay.
Discussion of the Adams Hotel property. Okay, we have, our bookkeeper has received correspondence from the Adams family, as it were. They do not want that building. That's basically all they're saying. They haven't said who they want to give it to or whatever. They're in arrears over $10,000 in assessments. The LMC board could get it, or we could just tell them we're not interested in it and it'll probably fall apart. Some of us have been in there, we've seen the situation, its condition. It even went up on the courthouse steps at one point last year for county property tax. But this is, I'm just telling you the status of the Adams Hotel property. They don't want it, they walk away from it, and we will most likely never recoup the assessments that the owners of that building owe. I'm gonna open that up to public comment.
Yes, I'm aware that we have a lien on that property.
Correct.
So maybe we could cross our fingers and hope that sometimes somebody wants to save that historic property. That would be wonderful, and at that time, maybe what we need to do is keep our liens current, I don't know if it has to be upgraded or whatever. I know when Russell Owens and I were on previous boards, that's when we put the lien on the property. So I could say we could hold out for that hope that somebody wants to save that historic, important building, and I would discourage the board from getting possession of it, because that's a huge liability, and it's unfortunate. Well, I can't think of anything else, but I could just say, I'd say keep our liens up to date and hope that someone, it won't just be condemned, that someone will save it sometime, and at that trend, when they get in possession, we'll have a lien on it, so that's it.
Thank you. Martha?
I've noticed that not only have many more plywood put by the SHRA in 2002 panels left the roof there, and it looks like lace work now on the top of that roof. From my porch, from my second story porch, you can see the roof is gone pretty much up there. So the rain must be just coming in to that building. And I think if you shore up the Wally pigeon store, if you shore that up and you get the pigeons out of there, they might just relocate right over there, or at the building next door to the Wally store. So you might want to work on all three buildings at the same time if possible, to close them up and put the roof panels back on them so they don't cave in and disintegrate into the ground.
So welcome. I just wanted to make you aware, it looks like the internet reception has disconnected from my laptop. I'm reconnecting the meeting right now.
Thank you. Would you like me to wait a little bit?
If you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. Would you like us to take 5?
We can take a 5-minute break. I'm just trying to get.
Will everybody come back if we take a 5-minute break while we restore? Okay, let's take it.
So we're reestablishing the quorum. We're going to do a second roll call vote. Member Jung?
Yes.
Member Wu?
Present.
Member Lum?
Here?
Member Giles?
Here.
Member Kirk?
Here.
Member Prosser?
Here?
Member Walthall?
Here.
Member Heath?
Present.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Just to button up the Adams Hotel property, we're going to revisit number 12 again for a moment. Was there any more public comment from the board regarding the Adams Hotel?
I have a question. Do we have any idea how much property taxes and arrears are?
They were cleared up, which was interesting, and I think it was a little under $4,000.
Okay, so if a legitimate good buyer, could we possibly waive fees if somebody who was historically minded and waive our, what was it, $10,000
Lien?
Assessment, back assessments?
We have to establish ownership. That would have to be done first. That would mean that the Locke Management Corporation would assume the ownership of that property. Because right now, it's still private property.
But you said the Adams family, nobody wants the
I
property.
know, but we would have to go through.
Right.
Yeah, so I assume we could do anything we wanted after that.
But like Deborah said, do we want to take that on? Would it be better for it to be offered up? Well, you said that nothing happened with it going on the auction block anyway, but if we have some knowledge in the community to be able to say, hey, this building is available, if you want to do something historic that, is in keeping with this town,
we have to establish how ownership would be transferred.
Right.
And that's beyond me. You know, maybe Eric might know something. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, I'm not qualified to
At least
express an
right
opinion.
now, its main issues are to itself. It also has, there's a broken pipe coming up on the road out of town, underneath the road, and there is a little stream of water running underneath in the first floor. Everything is completely soaked. The beaver board, whatever you call it, the walls have been melting in that place. So at least it's behind a cyclone fence and it could fall into itself.
Who put up the cyclone fence? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I'm curious who did that.
It is historically, you know, significant. It's one of the first 3 buildings on that end of town. It was hand-built by the Aoyang family. It's one of the few 3-story buildings, and it, you know, it had a business, a residence, and a hotel there. Very significant. So, we can look into that a little bit more, try to reach out one more time to the person who contacted our bookkeeper. And we'll have hopefully a little more information on our next meeting.
I know this is odd, but have they thought about putting it up for sale? Because without a for sale sign on it, no matter what it looks like, you know, no one knows it's for sale.
Right. I think we need to establish in writing something more than just a note sent to our bookkeeper, and we'll look into that.
And you know, all of the, like the Delta Conservancy and all of these major state agencies, I know that Douglas belongs to, and I don't know if there's any money in any of those programs for restoration. There's so many buildings out here in the Delta that are just depleting, you know, significant buildings, and, you know, unless the state steps in and helps. But I would hate to see us take it on another great big liability.
Okay.
You know?
Well, I'm going to close discussion on
Okay.
that, and I'm going to move.
Chair Walker, my apologies. I do have a teleconference public comment. They had their hand raised before the meeting cut out on this.
Okay.
I just wanted to verify with you if it's okay to have them make the public comment.
Yes, it is.
So, Mr. Aoyang, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, my comment is, your audio is cutting out. I'm losing you. That's all.
Okay, I'm going to move an item forward, and it would be under general public comment because we have a couple here who, this is time sensitive. I'd like to bring Daniel Rivas up here to explain, and his wife is here to explain an issue that they have regarding parking and whatnot. So,
Is this on the agenda?
I'm moving the public comment at the end.
Oh, this was under public comment. We received a public comment on this, right? So we're
Yes.
doing public comment now.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
We might have an issue with the speaker right here at the front.
Would it help if we spoke louder?
No, I think it might not have reconnected after I...
Okay, what?
Yes, if you could. See if it's on.
Thank you, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Daniel Rivas. I live in a Terry house, and have a little problem here about I rent 5 stores right in the parking lot. So there's have a guy, he's parking his pickup. You can see the pickup, he's in the middle of the ball storage. I have all my tools in there. I needed you guys to help me to send a letter or something to he can move it over his pickup. I already called the police he don't help me about that guy, okay, his community. That's only you guys he can help me. To send a letter to that guy, he moved his pickup. You can see the white pickup is in the middle of 2 stores. I rent 5 stores. I have all my tools to go to work. That's the tools I use for to work. And that's the only income I can have it. I'm working by myself. I take care of my family. I don't collect any money for the government. I take care of my family. That's why I needed your help to send a letter to that guy to move his pickup. Right there is no storage. The white pickup is not working. The trailer, he don't use it, it's not storage too. That's why I needed your help to send a letter to that guy to move his pickup. Because the pickup is not working, it's a JUNG. That's only.
Do you know if it's registered?
It's expired.
It's expired.
Right.
So you have 5 stalls, he's covering 2 of them, and you can't get your tools to go to work.
You can see he's parking in the middle. The middle of the store. That's the door. That's the 2 door that's open. I need to go get my tools to go work.
Yeah.
And he's in my way. That's all. Yeah.
And we know who owns this truck?
Yep.
We have a name and address.
Yeah.
Ask it in general question here. Deborah, Russell, you guys live here in town?
Yeah, it's good.
Name and address?
Yeah. Is this the truck you're
Yeah,
referring
this
to?
is the truck. You can see that's in the middle of the work.
Okay.
The middle
Well, it's
truck.
back in.
And who owns the property here? So who owns the garages?
Justin.
Technically, it's common area. The footprint comes out about 5 feet. Less than that from the garages. Technically, everybody that's parked there is parked on common area. We could have them all removed. But one thing to bear in mind is when we tow a car, we have to pay for it. If this was county road, if Mr. Oyang is correct, and that is county property, they do the towing. We've seen it done. If there's illegal parking or abandoned derelict vehicles on Main Street, the county comes in and tows them. But if we know the owner of the vehicle and we have a way to contact them, then we will send a letter as a board asking that this vehicle is removed.
Okay.
I'm sorry this is happening to you.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not running, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Dad, this is a resident of this town.
Yeah, he's a resident.
A resident, okay, well, so we will need his name, and you know how, can you get us his address?
We can get it. We can
I
get it.
think you wrote,
He wrote, it's here?
it's in
Okay.
a letter. Gotcha.
Okay.
I want to tell you, Daniel, this will be handled by us, not by you. You don't need to worry. We will do it. It'll be our responsibility. I thank you for bringing this to our attention. I
Thank
just
you.
hope it's done quickly. You know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to switch the agenda back to item number 13, which is the Star Theater. I'm sorry, I guess we don't have public comment on public comment.
Chair Walpole?
Yes.
So you opened up item 22, public comments. I do have 2 people via teleconference that wish to make a public comment.
And this is on item which?
22 for the public comment.
We changed it, so maybe we should let them make their public comment.
Sure.
Okay.
Change the time that you
Yeah,
can give
so
public comment.
Yeah, you are allowed to take the items out of order at your discretion. So this is item 22, public comments.
Is everybody clear on that?
No.
This is item 22, public comment, since we opened it up for Mr. Rivas and
Items not on the agenda?
This would be, that is not on the posted agenda.
Yes.
Item 22.
So I'll take the opportunity.
All right, well, we might as well just do public comment now,
Yep.
since we're already there.
So in response to Lisa's comment, okay, I think there's a Proposition 68 grant coming from Delta Steward Council, but it's the issue of ownership. Well, we have to clarify the ownership before we can talk to the government agency. That's
Gotcha. Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Did we take who's on the line?
Yes, okay, so for public comment teleconference, I have Douglas Oyang.
Regarding the gentleman with the car that's blocking, I guess his tools, if those cars are not registered currently to this year, you can tow them.
Does that end your public comment?
Yes.
Thank you. And then I have Eileen Lung. Eileen? Just for item 22, public comment. Eileen, if you have your hand raised, you can unmute yourself with *6, or you can just use the command via Zoom if you wish to make a public comment. Okay, I don't have a response from Eileen Wong, Mr.
You might have to
Chairwoman.
speak up.
Eileen, if you're there, you can make a public comment by hitting *6.
Are there any other public comments? Martha had her hand up first. Again, this is item 22.
I would like to bring the board's attention to, in your public packet and the public attention, your public packet, this one with the very large type here. And I'd like to read it into the verbal record. This is a portion of Civil Code Section 5105. And I'm sorry to be very repetitive because I've brought this up at numerous board meetings over the last several years. But the fact that this board does not hold valid elections of and by the general membership is against the state law, Civil Code Section 5105, for common interest developments. Locke Management Corporation is registered with the state of California as a common interest development. 5105, there's a portion of it, subsection B, I'm not sure how far that goes down, but an association shall disqualify a person from nomination as a candidate for not being a member of the association at the time of nomination. And then, after nominations, there's supposed to be elections with a third party or 3 third-party inspectors of elections. There are several board members, well, there are no actual elected board members here. I'm sorry, you're not elected. So it would be questionable any of the actions that you're taking, especially the 6 that are structured within the Locke bylaws to be elected representatives of the general membership. Now, these bylaws and election rules were written back in 2003. They are supposed to be changed by now, the bylaws under the state law. They haven't been. It's possible that since it's a common interest development, all 13 of the board members are supposed to be general members and elected by the general membership. The Maddie list of the county spells out, according to those 2003 or 2004 structured board seats, who expired
Excuse me,
when.
Your 3 minutes are up, Ms. Esch.
Okay, Mr.
Your 3
Walthall?
minutes are up.
Okay,
Your 3 minutes are up.
your seat expired last December, and it hasn't been ratified nor elected. Thank you.
Just a few things to clarify about that, the parking in front of the garages. It is LMA property, it has been. There is a place for the trailer to go, right back there. The LMA provides places for trailers, and why they didn't put it there, I don't know. And it's basically being used as a contractor's parking lot. There are places in Walnut Grove that can go with it. Another comment I want to make is, I just can't believe how much the county is being involved. I mean, I would never call the county in for a building. If you want to hurt them, if they come down and see that building, they'll condemn it. And that's going to make it worthless. And that's very difficult to get out of condemnation. What I applaud, again, what you're trying to do is board it up, make it safe, and just wait and see what happens, but to make it safe. Sacramento County has accepted this board. Sacramento County has a person here. This board is a valid board, regardless of what by the previous speaker. I've been a chairman of this board twice, and the person this one person just continues to hurt my board and to make it difficult. And it's not nice to watch the time spent on one person's made up, in my mind, in my opinion, made up stories about what's wrong. So you're a valid board, you're here, you're accepted by the county, you're in conversations with the county, you're a legal board, regardless of what someone happens to say. So I thank you, keep up the good work.
Are there any public comments online?
I don't have any more hands raised.
Deborah?
Yes, since elections were brought up, just want to remind everyone that I think it's uncontested nominations do not require an election. And unfortunately, who do we have here on the board that actually owns property? You and you. And that's it. And we could have 5, 6, I've lost count. So it's unfortunate that because this, as you know, is not an easy thing to do, we don't have enough volunteers. So there's been no people nominated who have accepted their nominations, except you guys, and I appreciate it, but we can't have useless elections when they're totally uncontested. So
I contest them.
just reminding everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments?
Chair Wolfman, I do have one hand raised down in the teleconference.
Thank you.
I have AJ Ragona.
Yes, I just want to thank the board for the good work they're doing. Even though there's headwinds from people in town, I really appreciate everyone spending their time and their efforts to make Locke better. It's just it's almost it feels. I just want to say thanks to the board. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, now these are public comments, so I'm not opening it up to the board. Shall we go back? Okay, discussion regarding, this is number 13, discussion regarding safety issues with the Star Theater. I'm sure it'll come in public and board comments. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just going to open it up to public comment.
I see no hands raised in the Zoom.
Russell?
I really don't have a lot to say. I've been here 50 years, and that building was somewhat used when I got here, but it's been abandoned for so many years. I really don't know what to do about it. It's the tourists love it. They lean against it. They pretend to push it over, and then you see pictures. And they put locks for a while. They were putting locks on it. I don't know what you're going to do to let the person who Clarence Chu used to own it, and as I understand, he sold it to the owner of the boathouse, and now his widow is basically in control of that building. So as far as I know, she wanted a lot of money. The last I heard, she wanted $50,000 for it, and it probably should be sold for $1. But I don't know what you can do with private property like that that's owned by someone who's very close. I don't know what anybody can do to help us with that building.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Deborah?
Yes, I would just suggest that you ask them to make sure that the sprinkler system remains secured on that building, because that's really important. And we had to do that previously. Our previous board had to reach out to the fire marshal for a letter asking that they secure the sprinkler system on there. You know, just because it keeps the whole town safe. That's all. So that's just a letter and maybe a reminder or something.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the board, and I'd like to make a couple statements. That is the one building that is truly a safety hazard. Mark Miller has gathered numerous sheets of rusted tin that have blown off that building, and more is to come. And unfortunately, it's eventually going to be open to the weather, which will ruin it. That's not our responsibility. But unlike the Wall-E building, we have not been sending letters to the owner of that building. I want to remind everybody too, all these problems, the Wall-E, the Adams Hotel, the Star Theater, that's not our responsibility other than the safety issues. We do not fix these buildings unless we have to, in the case of the Wall-E, if they don't respond. It's the owners who are letting this happen to buildings in our community, on Main Street, where we have the public walk. The Star Theater, we know its condition, it's sad, but it is a safety issue. So we will be starting to send letters to the owner of that building, and hopefully we get some responses. So, but I want to open this up to anybody else on the board that wants to address that building.
I'd like to speak. My understanding was that the daughters inherited it, and she's just managing the properties because she was estranged from them.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
My
that.
understanding, Kathy and
Stephanie?
what was his name, the old timer that passed away?
George.
George, that they were estranged, and all the properties that he owned or ultimately went down to his daughters, and she's managing them, or managing her daughter's properties. So it would be a good thing to find out who actually owns them.
Yep.
I would suggest we send him a letter actually asking for a structural engineer report, an assessment of their the water system, and that they do the immediate repairs of the roof. I mean, we can ask, we can say this is what needs to be done. But that structural engineering report was mentioned to me for years by somebody who did work for SHRA. And they said the county should be sending them one. And that's an easy, we're concerned about the integrity of your building. Could you please get a structural engineer report on your building so that it can be assessed? And then that throws it her way, or their way, whoever's in charge. And, again, the county, I'm sorry, I don't live in an HOA, where I live. I do have a county governing board, because we're kind of split on this. But, when there are issues with buildings, and I don't think anybody wants to condemn the buildings, but they're gonna condemn themselves if we don't do something. And I think the county is willing to, they've handled us with kid gloves for all these years. They really have. And I don't think they want anything, but we're to the point where roofs are flying off, some buildings are getting drenched, and, I think we can write that letter, we can ask the county to look into it. I think we first need to write the first letter.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because we haven't initiated that process.
Yeah.
Certified.
And it needs to have the CCNRs, it needs to have everything that they're not doing listed on that letter.
Yep.
My question is, who owns the buildings that are adjacent to the Star Theater?
Let me think.
Mark?
Mark and,
Okay, Hall, Larry Hall, Larry and Lynetta.
And Lynette.
Mm-hmm.
Are you nervous and concerned that these buildings could fall on your building?
Pieces of it hit my building pretty regularly. And it's got a lot of pigeons in it and vines growing on it that are kind of a fire hazard. It's a problem.
an insurance perspective, as an owner of a building next to a building that is causing damage, I think letters should also be written by you to the owner, stating these are the damages that are occurring, pieces of aluminum flying, damaging your building. Please take remedies to resolve this, so that if the building does cause further damage, you have documentation to be able to file a claim against their insurance company for damages to your building.
You're assuming they have insurance.
You're right.
Yeah.
But as an owner,
I don't know who would insure it.
We don't know who it is, but also in the letter, you can also be stated, please forward this to your insurance company, because we're afraid of the liability that your home or your building is causing to our property. Just protect your rights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. So we will send that initial letter. Mark, we can talk to you too if you want to take another step on that.
Can I ask a question? What's the ultimate goal? Like, I agree the building is a problem.
Yeah.
Like, as the owner of the building across the street, it looks like it's gonna fall into Main Street.
Yes.
Probably take out my front end. So yeah, I'd like to see something done, but like, what is that? And I realize we're just at the very beginning of this, and we're asking for potentially structural engineering reports or whatever, but what is the
roof would have to be
fix the roof and shore up whatever weaknesses vis-a-vis structural stability?
Apparently it is, from what I've heard, but I would have to see it in writing, that it is has been stabilized internally.
Okay.
So that roof has got to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Pigeons are another problem.
Especially now, because the upstairs have been in very good condition. I mean, unbelievably good condition, considering how there's hardly any floor left in place in the bottom. I think, to answer your question, to go a little further, get them to sell it for $1, like you said. And
for what, though?
There are
And then
many,
what
many,
happens?
I put a picture of it up on my now hacked Instagram and Facebook accounts. And I said, somebody please buy this building, take care of it. I had a lot of people interested. In fact, I had been giving people Kathy's phone number, people with a lot of money who are historically minded, who have the funds to take care of this building and make it something again. She's not gonna get 70, she's not gonna get 50,000. She's gotta do something. So if we can get somebody that can get in there and actually do it ultimately, you know,
It would be a goal of the Locke Foundation to be able to get that building, and then we would have the means of procuring grants. That is one of the most historic buildings
yes,
in this town, but that's been approached before. But let's just say again, we're going to start with the letters, and the letter will re-emphasizing the safety issue, which right now is definitely that roof. Yes. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a freedom here. Here you go.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Buena suerte.
Thanks for coming, Daniel.
Buenas noches, está bien.
I'd like to open up for agenda item number 14, and this is with Mr. Ao Yang. Can you hear me? This is discussion regarding the right of first refusal.
Yes, I'm here.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Locke Management Foundation, or Locke Management Association, excuse me. On January 9th, I read a portion of the CC&Rs that's the verbiage that I read was titled Transfer, section 2.8. Since that evening, I put together a rebuttal and sent it to you and the county the following day or two. And that's from the bylaws from the Locke Management Association. And it's in the packet. And on my Adobe paging, it's page 30. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to take it up from section, and by the way, this is Article 5 of officers in the bylaws. I'm going to read a portion of section 10, and below parenthetical A, below parenthetical 2, and I'll begin. This list shall be referred to as prior residents, descendants, and ascendants list. Parenthetical B. inquire with individuals on the prior residence and descendants in the descendants list as to their future intent to purchase property in Locke. Parenthetical C, serve as repository for Locke historical information, which could later be developed into a local display or exhibit on the history of the Locke and the effects of the Alien Land Act and how it impacted the town. Parenthetical D. This one should, I'm gonna reach, this one should be in the CC&Rs because it's speaking to the CC&Rs at the end. Consult the prior residents, descendants, and descendants list as a factor in the assignment of the right of first refusal as provided in the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. And I'll end there and begin with a little background on me. I am a developer today. I'm well versed in real estate title. I'm well versed in CC&Rs. I'm well versed with attorneys and how they prepare them. I have been involved in bylaws as a corporation, and I just find this at odds that the CC&Rs does not have that last paragraph, parenthetical D that I read. That ends my presentation.
Okay, I'm going to open that up to public comment. Martha?
In 2011, 2 months after my name was on the title of the property at 1265 Levy Road, I was handed an inch of papers from this public entity without any alternate dispute resolution offered to me, suing me and suing the woman who sold me the property as the co-defendant for our supposed violation of this right of first refusal. I believe that what Mr. Aoyang pointed out in the bylaws, the subsection D, that states that the board shall, as I recall it saying, shall consider not the interested parties list, which is the next section, section 11 in your bylaws, but only section 10, only the people of a specific race and national origin and ancestry, 3 things that are supposed to be protected under the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. But I was sued for supposedly not fitting this prioritized list. Had I been a Chinese ancestor of Locke, I would not have been sued by you folks, and it would not have cost me $404,000 in legal fees to your BPE law group, and the title of my property, and the loss of my business, and the money that I put in with county building permits. And I sure hope that your communications at $450 an hour with each of the lawyers of the BPE law group have ended, because this is ridiculous. Over a $21,000 property for me not fitting your prioritized race. Thank you.
Russell Owens?
May I point out that she lost every case, and that her belief that the first right of refusal automatically gives it to someone of any race is wrong. That never is the case. That never has been the case. The same first right of refusal exists in Walnut Grove. There's the same homeowners association that was formed this one before this one here in Locke. Has pretty much the same bylaws and CC&Rs. I don't know whether the first right of refusal is in the bylaws or in the CCNRs over there, I don't know. It's just, she bought a building for 21,000 that there were a lot of reasons we questioned it. It was because it was too cheap. It subsequently sold for 150. In fact, that was pretty much the cheapest building on town at that time, 150. So there were many reasons she was brought to court. One is that she tried to hide the sale. That's what made it very suspicious to most members of the LMA. I wasn't on the LMA, I did not vote it. And because of that, we were, one, protecting the homeowners' prices. They use comps. As you know, when you buy real estate, it's comps. And we have had a 21,000, it would change the comps. And she hid it. When she knew the CCNRs, she was throwing the CCNRs in her face all the time, and she didn't follow them. And she knew she didn't follow them. And Shirley Roberts, who was our town manager, when the title company did due diligence, came to us and said, are there any past dues? We had no idea that she was buying this building. So she avoided her requirement to notify when she was buying the building. She didn't do that. So that's where it all got off on the wrong foot with her. So, and again, she has propagated the belief that only Chinese can buy. That's false. That's absolutely false. And it's never been the case. Daryl, you can back me up in that. So, thank you.
Corliss?
Yes, I wanted to give a little history on why the first right of refusal was enacted to begin with. Locke was originally built by the Chinese, but then we could not ever own the land beneath the buildings. And because of this, owning the property wasn't sufficient. So when it came to us selling or the buildings being sold, it wasn't so much the fact that we were Chinese. It was the fact that we didn't have the right to own it. And finally, given the right to own it, we wanted to be able to have the right to buy the land underneath our building and own the building together with it. I think that's a very important factor that we need to understand when we're talking about this entire situation. I get lost in what I need to say here because I get emotional about it. My family, on my mother's side and my father's side, both lived in Locke. My sister grew up here, and we never had a chance to own the properties that we lived in. And we wanted to be able to have that opportunity, and we were never given that opportunity until this first right of refusal came about. And even at that, it was a very difficult thing to do because nobody wanted to give us, quote unquote, Chinese the right to do this. And it really wasn't a Chinese thing. It was something that we had to go through, that we couldn't own the property. And I want people to understand that that's where this whole situation came from. And that's all I have to say.
Did you receive any notice from the...
No, we never received, oh, that's another thing, is that we're supposed to have received notice that these properties would be up for sale. And for some reason, my family, in both sides, my mother's side and my father's side, we never made the list, so we were never notified that the buildings that we owned without the property was up for sale. So we didn't even know to buy it.
I have to point out that we're dealing with the right of first refusal.
Right.
Not the list, the contact list here.
Well, that is a part of the whole
It's not part of
scenario.
the right of first refusal.
Yes,
There
it
are
is.
different parts.
It is.
Yes, it is.
It
It
is.
is.
It is.
It
It
is.
is.
Come on.
It definitely
Don't
is.
bury your head in the sand.
Texas, somebody from Texas.
It
There are
is.
different parts.
He's from here.
These
Yes.
are different
His
parts
family
of our bylaws and
lives in-
CCNRs.
I think
From the
Douglas
very-
Iam
from the very
is probably better off explaining it than I am, and he's there wanting to make comment right now.
Okay,
So I'll
thank you.
Mr. Walpole,
acquiesce.
Yes,
it's in section 10. I didn't read it, but it's in section 10.
you didn't read it?
It's in section 10.
The maintaining of the interested parties list and the past descendants list is incorporated, I'm asking this, into the right of first refusal.
Yes.
Section 10, all of section 10.
Yes.
And it marries with the CCNR
Do we have that?
2.8.
It's right there.
Section 10 under the
Yes,
bylaws.
It says consult.
You're right.
It says consult.
Yeah, section 10 under the bylaws, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
2.8 in the CCNR.
Yeah, prior residence, descendant, and ascendants list.
And that's section 10,
Yep.
And they don't have to
which is
consider,
the right of first refusal clause.
they don't have to
Parenthetical
consider
D.
the people in section
D, under
11,
10.
the interested parties, anybody with. Board does not have to consider that as a factor in the right of first refusal. It's only the
Okay,
ascendants and descendants list.
It's just a factor.
okay.
So I'd like to speak.
Please do.
Thank you. The whole issue here
It's not here.
is not a race, and breaking the intent of number 14. This is not to exclude anyone else. Like Corliss was trying to say,
Correct.
this section 10 is to right a wrong because we couldn't own land until 1965. We couldn't buy in areas in Sacramento like Abbey Hoffman subdivision because we were excluded. So here we have a chance in the town of Locke, where we grew up, we built the town, and we, from the bylaws, and it should be the same in the CCNRs, that we should have the right to buy maybe, our parents' house, our grandparents' house, or our great-grandparents' house, because we never had the opportunity in 1915 because of the Alien Act of 1913. So this is the whole purpose of the bylaws, and the CCNRs should be the same again. And that's why I've been so dedicated and passionate about this as well. The bylaws plainly states that we have the first right of refusal as being descendants if we lived there before 1953. And I did. So I want to have that opportunity. And I have an objection to the CCNRs where the LMA has the first right. I object to that.
Oh.
That is not, incongruent. It's not consistent with the bylaw.
Well,
The bylaw in the last section, parenthetical D, states it should be in the CCNR. I'm done.
So you're saying that the intent of the bylaws was to offer it for the LMA to only assign to prior residents, descendants?
No. Is a factor in the assignment
Right,
of the
but
right of
he's
first refusal
trying to say
as
that
provided in the CCNRs.
he's trying to say that we shouldn't assign it to, that our purpose is to assign it to this certain list and not assign it to other people.
I didn't say that.
I don't know
Okay.
exactly what it's saying. I haven't read all the
Okay,
comments, but
so-
my what it says here is that the prior residents, descendants, and ascendants list is a factor in the assignment of this right of first refusal.
Right. But what I'm hearing him say is that should take priority over any other, if we had two people that a property came up and we had two people, one that was prior descendant, ascendant list, and then somebody over here that wasn't any of those, then our priority would be to assign
It
to
would
the
be to
first list.
consider the ascendants, descendants, and residents as a factor
Okay,
as to whether or not they should have the right of first refusal.
okay.
But there are.
So there's still a decision-making function of the
Right.
board to do that.
But what would, why, I mean, it's the same amount, so what would make us go one way or the other?
Amount probably doesn't have anything to do with it here, right?
Well, no, because when you have a first right of refusal, it's the same, nobody's gonna offer more, it comes in under that, whatever's been offered.
First
So,
right of
you know,
refusal.
if the property is $60,000, it comes into the LMA as $60,000, and they assign it at that. It does, that price, it's not like regular real estate, it's odd, you know?
So my understanding of how this works is, and there have been more recent transactions than mine here that maybe somebody wants to speak to, but the property comes up for sale, the seller solicits offers, that offer is then provided to the
LMA.
community via the LMA.
Right.
And the LMA then makes it available to the community, which is where the ascendants, residents, and
Right.
descendants list comes in. And then if nobody wants to bid more than to own the property, then it goes to the original offerer or the accepted bid at that time. And that's
Well,
how it
I think
happens.
what they're saying, if this
Well, hold on a
is
second.
a factor,
Hold on a second. Hold on
factor.
a second, Lisa. Mr. Ouyang, is anything that I said contradictory to what you're proposing?
There was two you talking, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Okay, I proposed a hypothetical here where a property transaction, someone in Locke wants to sell a house. They solicit bids for the house. They receive a bid that they want to accept. Let's say that bid is $60,000. We're using Lisa's example. That bid then comes to the LMA to say, hey, there's a bid to buy this house for $60,000. I want to accept this bid. And the LMA then looks to the descendants list, the residents list, the ascendants list to see if anybody who falls on that list wishes to bid more than the accepted offer amount. And if no, then the transaction proceeds as agreed. And if yes, then obviously they have to, there has to be a transaction with a new purchaser, and that's how it works. That's what we're discussing.
But if there's two people that want to put.
Let Mr. Ouyang answer.
So is that ready? Am I ready to speak?
Yes.
I hope so.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Yes, please speak.
Thank you. So I'm a commercial real estate broker in Texas. I deal in real estate in Texas and Florida and California. The issue is not whether or not you are making an offer to the general public. The owner of excuse me?
Keep going.
The owner of the property in Locke, whatever, lot and of the subdivision, this is now a subdivision, wishes to sell the property. The LMA is supposed to let them know they have a list to offer their home for their price that they want to sell it for. That's the real estate deal. That's the brokerage. That's the only function that's required. And if that person doesn't like the price, it goes to the next person. But the first person has a choice is on that list that we're speaking of.
Okay, so you're saying that the descendant, the ascendant list and residents have priority. If they don't want it, same price, they don't want it, then it goes to the person that doesn't have priority. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly what I'm saying.
Thank you.
I wish we had the clause here that's specifically titled First Right of Refusal. We don't have that right now in this. We have it for the...
What are you talking about? It's parenthetical D.
No, it says that is a factor in the assignment of the right of first refusal.
It says consult prior residents.
Well, how strong of a
of
word
this
is
list,
factor?
excuse me, of this list for the first right of refusal? What are you parsing words and you're parsing this paragraph? Why?
Because I think there's a clause that addresses specifically and solely first right of refusal, the process of it.
That's it, right there.
You're adding words in there, Mr. Walthall. That is not in this paragraph. This is the bylaws
No,
that
I'm
you
not,
have to
I'm
follow.
not talking about the paragraph you supplied. And unfortunately, I don't
I
have
didn't
my bylaws.
excuse me. I didn't supply this. This is your bylaw.
Right.
You supplied it to our meeting, Mr. Aoyang.
No, let's make it clear. It's in your bylaw.
It is.
So section 2.8 of the bylaws, which is included in the packet.
CCNRs. Sorry.
I beg your pardon?
2.8 is the CCNRs that marries with the bylaws.
Yes.
Okay, so if I can continue for a second here. 2.8, this is also in the packet. This is attachment 14. It's the first page of attachment 14. It's highlighted helpfully. It says the right of first refusal for the sale, purchase, or exchange of real property shall be given to the Locke Management Association, which may exercise or assign upon receipt of a bona fide written offer to purchase property or any other transfer agreement that the owner intends to accept. So that, I read that without having section 2.8. It's first page of 14 right there. You have it circled on your thing. That's what it says. Without having spent more than a few minutes here looking at this, that tells me the Locke Management Association, or Locke Management Corporation in this case, has the ability to basically manage the right of first refusal to the ascendants, descendants, and residents list.
It doesn't say anything of the sort about descendants in this section.
And that's
I agree with that, Mr. Ouyang. I do think that section 2.8 clarifies that the LMA or LMC in this case manages the right of first refusal.
I'm sorry, who am I speaking to?
Eric Heath.
So, the CCNRs are not consistent with the bylaws.
Correct.
It's been changed.
Well, despite Lisa's confirmation of your assertion, I don't know that to be the case. I need to look.
I say it's changed because it's not an assertion. It doesn't agree with how parenthetical D is written in the bylaw. That's why I say it's been changed.
That may be the case.
LMA is not.
That may be the case, sir. I just can't. I'm not going to confirm that your understanding because I don't know it to be true.
I don't care if you confirm it or not. I'm making a statement that's black and white and facts.
Go ahead.
It's not consistent. He's saying it's not consistent.
Okay.
And it's not consistent. That's true.
Okay. Are we still on public comment, Douglas?
Me?
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Douglas Shaw.
Sorry. Okay. So basically, well, Carla's here. She's a bona fide, qualified as a descendant, and she never received her notification. And Douglas Aoyang, our gentleman online, he has never received a notification for in case of sale of any property. So I think there's something fundamentally wrong, a flaw with the mailing list.
With the process.
With the process.
Let me interrupt.
And
Don't speak. Don't. Let me interrupt.
If I may, Chair Walthall, I need to make a quick announcement. When we have members of the public making a public comment, only the chair is at the discretion to have, ask a question of the commenter, but we do have to allow the public the 3 minutes to speak and make their public comment without interruption. So I'm going to start the timer back up for Mr. Shaw so he can finish up his public comment. Any members of the public that do wish to address the board should do so through the chair. And when public comment period is over, that's when the board will now go back into their conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so I'll continue that there's something fundamentally wrong, flaw with the process, whether it is a sabotage or deliberate negligence or just innocent negligence. I don't know. But I think we really should look into the process why so many people were left, qualified, bona fide descendants were left out of the list or left out of the communication. All right, that's all.
Thank you.
The bylaws come first.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Gona, are you finished?
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to get an answer. And I'm wondering, what's the end game, Mr. Aoyang? What would you like to see?
That the CCNRs be revised legally to agree with the bylaw.
Do you think the Department of Real Estate or the Office of Attorney General could
Lisa, I
help?
have to leave this open to public comment right now.
Okay, is there any more public comment?
Deborah?
Okay.
Yes, I was secretary for the LMA and the foundation for quite several years, and I lost count. Over 10 years, I think, for the LMA. And at that time, the descendants list was passed on to me as secretary to send out notices as per the CCNRs, I think, which is part of the confusion here. Whichever one required that we notify those individuals on that list. And that was faithfully done. And I just want to apologize to Corliss and anyone else who was omitted from that list. Because all I know is we were handed a list. That was created by the CAC, which was the Community Advisory Committee that worked in the early 2000s to create what we have today. And in that group was great people like Donna Tolley, Isla Collins, who has since passed. I know Alex Ang was on that committee, and I only was able to go to one meeting because I wasn't even living here yet. I was in New Jersey with Russell. John Barnato and Dr. Christina Fa were instrumental in establishing that list. So I did want to take the opportunity to apologize to anyone whose family was from here and deeply involved here if they were omitted. It was totally by accident. I don't even know how that's possible given Corliss's background. But I was ignorant of at the time. And it pains me to see that the pain that is caused by, to some individuals and families because of this. We really have always done the best we could to notify anyone that we knew was connected, and we could only do what we were given, manage what we were given. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Any more public comment? Russell?
Carol, you want to go?
You could go first.
Okay. The board that met in Gene Harvey School for 2 years, it was a 20-member board. Huh?
35 meetings.
Yeah, 35 meetings. It was contentious, and I remember the first right of refusal was not passed by that board, but Christina Fa was adamant about it. She was, and as I recall, just memory only, that after it ended, that we ended up with first right of refusal. And I'm sure when the county put it in, they have a full legal body that reviews those kinds of things and determines, because they're liable, there's a liability factor for them. And the courts over the last 10 years have taken the case and have all ruled in our favor. So that's all I stand on, and my own reading of it as I see it, and having also written bylaws, having also done the same, being on committees, been involved in politics. Thank you.
Carol?
I actually am one of those people, not with Corliss's legacy. My mother came from China and lived with her relatives on Levy Street when she first came, worked in the canneries and so forth. So I guess I can speak to that, but that's not what I'm going to say. I'm going to say thank you for acknowledging that, Debbie, that there was an error. I'd like to just say let's move on from here and let's make the CC&Rs consistent with the bylaws as they should be. So that's my take on it.
Any other public comment? Okay, let me open it up to the board. Any board members want to discuss the right of first refusal?
Well, I think what he's trying to say is match the CC&Rs up with the bylaws. So we would probably have to rewrite the bylaws and the CC&Rs, which is probably something that we need to look at anyway. The county's probably not going to help us with this. You know, we are a CID. They may help us do the Brown Act and do the meetings, but they're not going to help us redo the CC&R and the bylaws, and we'd have to get an attorney to help us do this, or we can rely on the speaker. And I think we should continue this because it is complicated. I see the point that it looks like this was put in here to offer descendants that, you know, to right the wrong against descendants, and that we've used it to assign it to other situations. And then I think in the last couple of years, we haven't even really put it on the agenda and dealt with it. So, you know, I think we need to continue this, but to rewrite the bylaws, we're gonna have to have an attorney, we're gonna have to look at the whole documents, the CC&R and the bylaws. But it's a foundation document.
I can address that a little bit because the Locke Foundation did amend their bylaws.
Right.
It was quite a lengthy process. We eventually got the new bylaws amended. Of course, we were not dealing with an issue that is so weighty as this issue. We've had approximately 12 instances that I know of where the first right of refusal came into effect. The board only did not refuse the first right of refusal one time, and that was with Martha Esch, and that's because she bypassed the whole process of submitting the sale of her building.
No, I didn't.
Yes, and that was also in the lawsuit.
There's no requirement.
Okay, we're not gonna get into this talk, we're not gonna get into this. Let's go on.
All the rest of the
CC&Rs.
all the rest of the first right of refusal instances, the board did not move on purchasing that building. The interested parties list, which is, might be considered a little outdated because we're not a real estate firm. The interested parties list is different than descendants. So regarding maintaining a descendants list of everybody who is descended from 1954 is, in my opinion, impossible. Of the kids that have had kids that have had kids, and we would have to somehow know who lived here in Locke. And I've done a lot of research on the families and businesses that have been here in Locke, and each building has had numerous residents and businesses, and to find their children where they live, to be able to get a hold of them is impossible. However, it doesn't mean that the ascendants list cannot be added to. You guys say you've started an organization, what is it called? Douglas?
Locke Prada, which is Locke Prior Residents, Descendants, and Ascendants.
Committee or organization?
It's a, I guess you call it a corporation, but it is a nonprofit.
Have you incorporated? Okay, well, that would be a good thing to hook up to use as a resource. I'm not saying that this is a suggestion. You guys could help in doing outreach.
Where, as you say, it is nearly impossible. But it's not that, we should try, regardless of whether it is insurmountable or not. People still try to climb that hill, right? That mountain, whatever it is. So I'd say, let's continue to keep trying to do that.
Well,
to be inclusive.
If you guys supplied a list, it should also be noted that nobody none of the buildings that have sold here in Locke have ever gone back to the original owners. So, and it doesn't, it doesn't state that that has to be that way.
No.
It just, people who have lived here before are descendants of the people who lived here before have the opportunity to purchase a building once it goes up for sale.
Yes.
Which happens very infrequently, but, yep.
But we have, we've, in our oral history efforts with the Oral History Project, have talked to people who have said that, oh, I didn't know this came up. So they have admitted that there have been many people that have never received and been on the list to be notified.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah.
And there'll probably always be more people that are in that.
Well, but some of these are closer to the source, so.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Again, that list was handed to Deborah. It was created back in the CAC
I know,
days
it
of
was a long time
2002
ago,
and
long time
2003.
ago.
And then that list was handed to us. So,
But, you know,
That's what we
an
have
attempt
to
to
do.
continue to update it is admirable.
and you guys could help.
And we're trying.
Yeah. So, Martha, we're done with public comment.
Yeah.
Any more from the board?
I would just reiterate the objective of trying to make sure that the bylaws and the CCNRs are consistent and to avoid this kind of confusion and frustration. I realize that's a difficult process to do, but I support it.
Just a question, how much did it cost you to redo the bylaws?
Nothing.
We had somebody helping you?
Nope. But we were dealing with, like I say, issues that weren't real legal like this. We were changing the board, you know, who's on the board, etc.
Yeah.
What we did do, the Locke Foundation, is we separated ourselves from, I'm chairman of the Locke Foundation, so I'm saying ourselves, separated ourselves from the Locke Management Corporation completely. We separated ourselves from Sacramento County. The bylaws that we had been handed as a foundation, the foundation is not dealing, we don't deal in real estate. We wanted to operate as a traditional California 501c3 nonprofit. And that's the status that we got unanimously from the Board of Directors. The Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, I should say. It's a whole nother thing when it comes to the Locke Management Corporation because we're joined at the hip to Sacramento County. In a sense, they're liable along with us for a number of these issues. Anybody else have any comments regarding, we'll bring it up again. We should probably form some sort of a committee to get in to doing a step-by-step comparison between the bylaws and the CCNRs. But I will make note that up to this point here, the Fire to First Refusal started with Douglas Aoyang spreading a falsehood about what the intentions of this board were. And then we're dealing with Mr. Aoyang, his intentions regarding the First Right of Refusal. And as far as I know, nobody on this board up to this point has ever felt that this First Right of Refusal was an issue worthy of agendizing or even thinking about. So that's where we're at right now.
You misquoted me, sir. I never
Excuse me, Mr.
accused you at all, or the
Excuse me,
LMA.
could you mute him? Goodness gracious.
You're not even elected.
He might be an expert, but man, you gotta learn some manners.
You're not elected.
Okay, here we go.
You're not ratified.
Miss Ash, would you please quit interrupting? My God.
So how we continue the item, and with the speaker input also, and that we're gonna ask members to make up a current list, correct? So we can
We're
send
trying
it.
to do that.
Right, and then next time we have a building come up for sale, that list can be sent out. Because I think that's what started this.
Thank you.
And to add credibility to who you guys are, please submit your articles of incorporation and your titles so that we
Oh,
can
sure.
put those in. Thank you. The formation of the town manager hiring committee. It's been 3.5 years. The town needs a town manager. And I'm going to open it up to public comment. Martha?
Town manager is roughly 20% of your annual budget, or it was back in the beginning. It was a salary back prior to 2011, I believe, of $24,000 of the $60,000. It was reduced to $12,000 or approximately that in about 2012. I don't remember which year it was that Wayne Miller slid over to be working for the Locke Foundation and left being the manager of Locke Management Association at the time. I think it was around 2013, 2014, but we 32 property owners never received a rebate for all those years when there wasn't a paid town manager. We never received a rebate or a discount off of our assessments for that 20%, approximately 20% of the assessments. And Anna Paveozin was here for 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that. Since then, once again, you're still showing on your budget reports a salary for a non-existent manager. Before you propose your budget, which I came late to the meeting today, but you had something about the 2023 budget, which should have been proposed between November 1st and November 15th of last year, after distributing it to all 32 property owners. It hasn't been distributed. We have never received the proposed budget for this year. It probably includes a manager's salary still. And you're probably assuming that we should have to pay for a manager's salary when there wasn't a manager for the last several years. Why aren't you rebating the 32 property owners, the general members?
Russell?
I really hope you hire a manager. COVID, the last 2 years, has fouled everything up. We all know that. It must be from out of town. The difficulty with this board is not only do we have to legally follow, when I was chairman, I had to follow everything, be at attention, follow the rules. I was liable. But I also had to enforce the bylaws, and that was the rub. Because as soon as I said, hey, you should move your car, you hate me, it all became personal, and it was a mess. And the politics of this town really gets stinky. So if you have someone, if you hire someone who's professional, who has education, who's learned diplomatic skills and ways of working with people in a town. We hired one person, we were going to hire her because she had a gun. That's the kind of politics we had a while ago.
It's a great community.
It's the truth. Anyway, so yes, out of town, and please hire one. And I don't think, I didn't miss the money. The money is so little money. We have so many other things to do with the money. It's always going to be spent. We're running a whole town, 7 acres on 45,000, 50, I forget. Thanks.
Do we have anybody online, Manuel?
I don't have any hands raised at the moment.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the board. Let me first say this, that what Martha Ashe is saying is deceitful.
Okay, we're just here to choose a committee.
Uh-huh.
Can we just choose is there anybody that wants to volunteer?
Let's explain what we need. And the hiring of a town manager was approximately 25% of our budget. Might be a little more now because we don't have as much income as before. The process of hiring a town manager could be lengthy. We have to advertise. How do we advertise? We have to have an interview process, of which I would like to have a committee to help with that. We have 2 templates from previous town managers as far as their duties and responsibilities go. What we need now is we get 2 birds with 1 stone. Whoever's on this committee could also be involved with the interview process for a town manager. I would like to see if we have any volunteers on record here to be on that committee.
I will.
Virginia? Anybody else?
I volunteer. Stuart, I volunteer.
Okay, honey. I will. Okay, the first thing is going to start with outreach. We've got to get folks that are willing to apply for this job.
I have a question. I know that Anna lived close to this community, so she knew about it. Previously, was this job, could you simply list it on Indeed or one of those sorts of sites? Is that what you did, or was it in a local newspaper?
I wasn't involved in the process, so I don't know.
Okay.
But we've been doing some homework regarding that.
Okay.
Including putting ads in the paper, etc. In a sense, not having a town manager has saved the town every year $25,000. Might be on the budget, but we don't spend it. Having this board do the duties of a town manager has saved the town probably $60,000.
I'd like to address Jenny. To get a professional person, I would actually do targeted send out of that advertising to the professional property management companies like John Stewart Company, Eugene Berger, those type of companies that are specific in their property management activities.
Help by doing some homework.
Yeah.
We'll have a subcommittee meeting. The resignation of number 16, resignation of Joy Coe as commercial property representative. We have her letter of resignation.
I make a motion, we accept the letter.
Probably should have some public comment.
Okay. Motion's out there, though.
Oh, second.
Any public comment regarding Joy? Douglas?
Well, I think I would like to speak for Joy. I think Joy went through some, to her, as a lady approaching 80 years old, she believed that she went through some scary experience, and I'm sorry that that is the way that she had to leave town. And yeah, and because she is a substantial artist, running a studio that entertains our visitors all the time, and this is a great loss to the town too. That's all.
Any other public comment? Board comments? Okay, did I hear a motion to accept the resignation?
Yes.
Who was that?
Lisa.
Lisa. And the second?
Daryl.
Daryl, thank you.
Okay.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Of course. Member Jung?
Yes.
Member Wu?
Aye.
Member Lum?
Yes.
Member Giles?
Yes.
Member Frick?
Yes.
Member Prosser?
Yes.
Member Walthall?
Yes.
Member Heath?
Yep.
The motion carried.
Number 17, report from residential building owner representative. I would like to first bring up an issue that is of concern to me as a resident and other residents, and that's our water system, our fire suppression, the pump. We've discussed this in the past, that we've had continuing issues with, what's the name of the company? Certifier, sending us our daily report on that the fire suppression system works. That's being worked out, I hope. Well, through this process, we've discovered, and I'll throw Joe in here, and so with Mark Miller and Clarence, we've gone over to the pump house and in seeing the machinery that supplies the water in case of fire here. Dustin Marr, who is one of the 3 owners of Locke Waterworks, had been in charge of checking it, making sure that it was maintained on a schedule, etc. He's informed me that he can't even read the dials over there anymore because of his poor eyesight. So I inquired who is in charge of doing routine inspections, etc. He gave me a name of somebody over at the boathouse. I called the number doesn't work. My point is that we, especially as a board, but the townspeople, should be aware of what Locke Waterworks does regarding our fire suppression system here. Who is in charge of it? Who has access to that room? What is the schedule of having it inspected? We don't know any of this. Locke Waterworks is a big mystery. I would like to suggest that we get Clarence Chu. It would be ideal if we could get Clarence Chu, Kathy Chandler, and Dustin Marr here at a meeting to just explain to the board and to the town, the residents of the town, how their fire suppression system works.
Are they responsible for the whole system?
Yeah, the Locke Management Corporation is responsible for the communication system.
Okay.
We pay for that. They are in charge of the pump. That building says Locke Waterworks on it. So.
But the pipes that are around the buildings, we're responsible for those, correct?
We being this board?
Yes.
Not that I know of.
Ugh.
But it could be. But my problem is, our problem is we don't know what's going on. There were problems when the fire of June 3rd or July 3rd, or whatever the year was.
2016.
When the fire was out here. I mean, we didn't know what's going on. We need to know what's going on. That's my suggestion. Again, this is a report I'm giving as a residential building owner representative. I'm not calling for a vote or anything, but also there's been questions regarding the supply of water because of the arsenic levels and us not having tapped into the Walnut Grove water system. We were receiving free bottled water. We stopped getting that, as far as I understand from Clarence's, because the contract, that there's still issues with the contract. So for the people that ask me, when are we gonna get water? I don't know.
That could be something that the Locke Waterworks folks could give us an update on. That
think
interconnection with county water has been pending for many years. I inquired about it over a year ago because of some issues we had at Al's. And I talked to several people at the county and said they're ready to dig. We just need to get Locke Waterworks on board.
Okay.
Well, you guys, they had that meeting during COVID. Do you remember that meeting?
Yeah, there was a lady who attended our meeting and
From
gave
the
us the
county?
full explanation of how the project is going to work.
I think everybody
Yes.
signed into it. Property owners signed into it at that time. So, I can contact Sac County. I had talked to Rebecca Sloan about the lack of water, the lack of bottled water. And it's been 2 months, she's never gotten back to me. So I can make an inquiry.
That would be good. I can talk to Clarence again too.
Okay.
Also, since it's pertinent to the work that's been being done, especially here in town and then certainly with residences and buildings, we do have a design and review committee. We're supposed to have a design and review committee. It had been a separate committee, and the previous board had assigned the responsibilities to their entire board. So in following the SPA guidelines, you know, for painting your house or putting in your windows and whatnot, they're supposed to be submitted to the design and review committee. And I think it would be important for us to once again have that committee, or at least get, since we are acting as the design and review committee, to familiarize ourselves with the regulations in the SPA, and of course in our CC&Rs and bylaws, but the SPA really spells out, Special Planning Area Ordinance really spells out the physical requirements of what gets done in this town, and get people, residents and business owners, to realize that we have a design and review committee, and that if changes are made, to submit them through the committee. That's a whole nother ball game right there. And again, I'm just bringing this up as a residential building owner representative. So there's also some little things like the removal of abandoned cars here. We've kind of touched on them in the garbage, but that's my report. But I will put on the agenda, since I'm chairman, and I'll reach out to Clarence Chu and asking him if our next meeting, if he can come and speak addressing our, the Locke Water Works. Okay, any public comment or comments from the board? Okay, could we have a report from our commercial building owner representative, Eric?
I don't really have much to report. I mean, I'm grateful that you brought up the Locke Water Works issue, and I would agree that we should have that meeting and get a better understanding of where things stand and where how the water system is working, and what we might expect in terms of future interconnection with the county water. But as for commercial property report, like I said, I don't really have a ton to say, and I would just say business as usual. We had a very wet, cold, and poor winter. But things are as the temperatures increase, traffic is increasing, which is very good, and I look forward to supporting the this coming weekend. There's a Mother's Day, I think, whatever, we're running specials, and then I know there's the Spring Festival and all that, and we look forward to supporting all that. So I don't really have anything other than that.
We had also considered during the commercial building owner representatives report, any report from from Jenny and the merchants.
Other merchants, yeah.
So Jenny, do you?
Yes, I think Eric's absolutely right. The weather's been atrocious, but business has been falling and falling long before the bad weather, probably 10, 11 months now. Sharp decline in, I'd say, general foot traffic, and definitely in sales. And it's not just our little town. Everybody I know that's doing similar work, vintage shops in the foothills, in the Bay Area, are all having a really, really hard time right now. So yeah, these festivals and anything that we can do to help to bring people, keep us in their minds and their heads and bring them in here is gonna hopefully keep us all in business. It's quite scary.
Okay, thank you. Okay, report from Chinese American organizations. Let me start with the Locke Foundation, honey.
With Locke Foundation, we were happy to host in February 11th the Lunar New Year in the town of Locke. We had over 500 visitors that day, but of course we didn't get to park all the cars in the orchard area because of the wet weather. So Eastern Ways Martial Arts Lions, they were here to celebrate with us. In addition, Chef David Suhu came to talk at the Pearl Gallery. February 1st to May 4th, Locke Foundation hosted a number of walking tours, which included folks from the Bay Area, historical societies, Papa, UC Davis retired UC professors, spouses, University Farm Circle, and various school groups. April 29th, Locke Foundation hosted E. Vitus Clampus. They were here to help with cleaning up the town of Locke, and they represented 3 chapters who came to Locke, and they had probably over 150 people that came. Some of them stayed overnight, and Clarence was generous enough to let them stay at the orchard overnight. And included, they collected over $450 and donated that to Locke Foundation. On Saturday, May 13th, Locke Foundation is hosting our Asian Pacific Spring Festival. So we hope that you share this information with all the families and friends, and invite folks to celebrate the Asian Pacific Heritage Month. We invited Eastern Ways martial arts dancers, over 12 performing groups. We have a tea ceremony, and we will have food truck for that Saturday. In addition, Locke Foundation continues to network with other state and nonprofit organizations in promoting the Chinese culture and educating the public about our national historical landmark, the town of Locke. We met with the 1882 Project that's based out of Boston, and they are spearheading an effort to make the Donner Summit in the Sierra Nevadas a national historical landmark in honor of the Chinese rail builders. This year is the 70th year anniversary of the repeal of the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, and that would be in December of this year. The Locke Foundation Oral History Project is actively seeking funds to collaborate with film director Ming Zhao to create a documentary about the women voices in the Delta. So we encourage folks to get the word out there, and we thank Corliss, Carol, for helping in that direction. And this is the connection to get the descendants and to get families who are connected to the Delta area.
Thank you. Since this is Locke Foundation, I want to add just a little bit too. You know, our signature event of the year is our Locke Asian Pacific Spring Festival. And it isn't just Locke Foundation. We, organize it and sponsor it and whatnot, but this is a town event. And we really like it when all the businesses prosper from having this many people come into town. But it really is a celebration of what of just what Locke is. It's such a treat to have people come here for the first time and see this picturesque Main Street, to get a little flavor of the history of the town. So even though the Locke Foundation is not part of the Locke Management Corporation, we certainly work, in tandem with this organization here. OCA?
May I make an addition to the Locke Foundation announcement? Why not?
Yes.
Yes, it's public information to share.
Because this is Honey's report.
Yes, but then I add to it as public comment.
Sit down, please.
No, I think I have the right.
You think you could just go ahead and do that?
No, I think
I'm asking you to sit.
I think I have something to add.
Mr. Shaw, we still haven't opened up the public comment portion of the meeting for this item. When that comes, we can definitely take the public comment.
So we're gonna do public comment on all 3 of these reports?
Well, we had one for,
Well, they're all in one agenda item.
Yeah.
So then we'll do public comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So any other items, yes.
Okay.
We are, OCA is having their annual Dragon Boat dinner on Thursday, May 25th. You all are invited. It'll be at the Doubletree as it has always been. I think my wife secured the reservation, so it'll be there. That's it.
Thank you. Do they have a dragon boat there?
We don't own a dragon boat.
We own dragon boat paddles.
Okay, and CCS, Chinese American Council, Sacramento.
Right, so this just preliminary activities. We're working with Sacramento State and the Asian Studies Department in creating an Asian API historical symposium. We're going to be reaching out to all the historical societies in the greater Sacramento area and utilize the resources of Sacramento State for a group brain trust to find out what are the Locke Foundation doing, what is Ileton doing, what's Marysville doing. Up in Folsom, we're building a Chinese Heritage Museum. But we're reaching out, again, preliminary stages, working with Sacramento State to create a symposium, getting together our groups so we can work in concert versus in silos. So that's what we're doing with CACS.
Thank you. Okay, public comment.
Okay. May I?
Yes.
So, yeah, so I think we have a couple more significant events that Locke Foundation that participated and hosted. On April 22nd, Locke Foundation co-host with California Museum, UC Davis, to hold a forum at the California Museum. And it's a forum of the Asian American Farmers' Heritage. And we were so happy that we were able to invite Christopher Chen, the fourth generation Chinese farming families, to speak at the forum. And I think it's a significant event. I don't know why Honey didn't remember it. And also in the month of February, Locke Foundation worked with the state park, and we did the first anniversary of the Gamsan Trail. That was the first Chinese name ever adopted by state park in their jurisdiction. And it's called the Gamsan Trail, meaning Gold Mountain Trail. And we did the first anniversary celebration. And we also used the opportunity to host a Qingming Festival ceremony. So Qingming Festival is the Chinese festival that observe and to honor the dead, like the Catholics on Sunday. So these are significant events that is participated and hosted by Locke Foundation. And yeah, so I just want to fill in. I don't know why it's so challenging for me just to speak for this. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Okay.
Staff updates. Hey, I was just wondering if we can maybe find a way to do consent items under an agenda. Because sometimes when you have approval of minutes and treasurer's reports, sometimes you can vote on it in kind of one.
Yep.
Okay, and you can still, if somebody wants to give a public comment, you can pull it out, but we had a very long agenda tonight. And I was wondering, maybe
I had considered this, what Lisa's talking about is consent calendar. County does it all the time. They'll just go from 13 through 41.
Right, unless somebody wants to pull it out.
Yep, but.
Okay, well I'm just gonna mention it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay, that's number 20 on the agenda. Staff update. Did anybody have any public comment regarding that? Okay, any board members? Okay, number 21, director comments, reports, and announcements. Public comment on that? Okay. Any members of the board want to make director comments or reports or announcements?
I just want to thank Jenny for helping out with finding vendors for our spring festival.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
I'll
Already
second.
done.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I don't think.
Is that okay, Manuel? Okay. Okay, thank you.